Good morning, members. Bore da pawb. Welcome back to our meeting of Thursday, 24th of February. Remind members that it is a resumed meeting of our so-called budget meeting. We are currently on item 3 on the agenda, medium-term financial strategy 2022-27 and 2022-23 budget and capital programme for 2022-27. Can I remind members that we do still have standing orders suspended on agenda on certain items. It's difficult. We really do not want to return to any debate which has already been said. Members, for information, the ground rules are in place. Members, I circulated some guidelines yesterday evening, which were accepted in group leaders this morning. So I'll just remind people I'm not looking for comments in the chat box other than what is necessary. I'm also, as regards voting, it will be through the electronic vote and verbal votes only. Chat box votes will not be accepted. As I said, this was accepted in group leaders this morning, so I'm not expecting any discussion on it today. Members, you will all know by now that some amendments have been circulated and proposed, and the first one was accepted was from Councillor Ali Davis, and I'm going to go in view of the fact that he submitted his amendment first. I'll go to Councillor Ali Davis to propose this amendment.
Diolch yn fawr iawn, Cadeirydd. Bore da, Cyngor. Good morning, Council. Here we go again. This time last week we were sat in this virtual chamber. I even had the same tie on. Groundhog Day, it is not. There has been change. The world has changed. As we sat in our comfortable chairs last week, Putin's army was crossing the Ukrainian border and invading a sovereign state. Young men are dying as they defend their country. Families are being killed in their own homes as Putin shells their towns and villages. And refugees are fleeing this war, and before too long, they will be on our doorstep seeking shelter. Russia, a proud nation, is being dragged back into the Cold War era by Putin, a despicable dictator. The world is an uncertain place, and we are sat here once again arguing about £1 a week increase on council tax. My amendment, seconded by Phil, does not significantly change the budget from the one we had considered last week. You will have seen our proposal, a 3.39% increase, £1 a week for each home. Having said that, slightly more than half our homes will not see all of that increase because they will receive some form of discount on their council tax. But this additional £3 million will make a big difference to the service delivery for years to come. We have driven the council tax as low as we can. My only worry, and it has kept me awake at night over the past week, is whether or not I have pushed it too low. In this uncertain world of rampant inflation, as I was only discussing with Councillor Les last night about how the price of fuel has shot up, I ask myself, have we made enough allowance in this budget for inflation? Adequate reserves are essential to protect our services. I have requested officers for countless notes and evidence to back up this budget, but I have to say to them, I'm not going to use it. Sorry, officers, you know who you are the best, but sorry, I will not be using that evidence in my speech now. Because this council knows this budget inside out. It has been through hours and hours of scrutiny, and there have been no big issues brought to the attention of the Cabinet. Minor quibbles here and there maybe, but no big issues. This budget delivers additional investment for our critical services. £5 million for education, £2 million for highways, transport and recycling, with additional capital investment. Over £7 million for adult social services, and an additional £1.8 million for our children's services. our net budget will stand at just over £300 million, every penny of which is being spent delivering services and supporting our families and communities. And this budget is delivering investment without depleting our reserves. We know not what the next 12 months will bring, what carnage and misery Putin will inflict on Ukraine and the rest of Europe. We need our services and powers to be strong and resilient to support the inevitable refugees that will arrive on our doorstep, and we must greet them with open arms. Munder Maldwyn, a Montgomeryshire phrase, describes the quiet, loving gentleness of our caring communities. Equally true for Brecon and Radnorshire. Let's welcome all refugees with love. Last week, I was described by one councillor as being worse than Putin, to be honest. I'm not sure if he is fit to be a councillor, but his words don't worry me. Call me what you like. I'm just a hill farmer from the north of the county. My role is limited, but one thing that I want to achieve is to provide a realistic budget that gives the next council a fighting chance to remain within its budget. The real stars here are Powys County Council workforce, from our remarkable chief executive and a senior management team, all the way through to our frontline services. Our highways team that battled to keep our roads open during the recent storms. Our care workers travelling up muddy farm tracks to provide care for our families. Our teachers who have endured a pandemic but still inspire our children. This budget invests in our workforce. Let's set the budget now. Give the tools to our workforce to deliver the vital services to our families, to our neighbours across Powys, and potentially to our Ukrainian friends. Please, Council, let's put an end to these political games that we're all guilty of and back this 3.39 amendment. Diolch, Cadeirydd.
Thank you very much, Councillor Aled. Councillor Phil, I believe that you wish to second the motion.
I do, Chair. Thank you very much for inviting me in. After them very sort of sombering words from Aled there, I did have an essay to write, to read rather, but I think I'll keep it quite short and sweet. This investment of 3.49%, if this was reduced and we were to use the capital that has been suggested by others, over 5 years, that would be a loss of revenue of £15 million. That £15 million is the very money that we all want to invest into our schools, whether that be in new schools or maintaining our current estate, whether that be in early years settings in Rhaeadr, new secondary school settings in Gwynedd and Crickhowell. And these are the very people that are taking us, this controlling administration, to task over the budget. We are setting a budget that will provide for our residents and secure our very key services. By voting against this amendment, you are voting for an unsecure future for our libraries and leisure centres, unsecure future from our waste and recycling collections. I really do not know where this council will go if we do not get this amendment through. I share the concerns of Aled over the concern of the fact that maybe this isn't enough. Inflation before last Thursday was set to be about 5%. With the actions of Russia and Putin over the last week, I dread to think where that will end up. I really do. I ask you, think clearly about what we're asking of our services to do. For them to be able to operate effectively, to look after those residents who most need it. As Aled has said, 50% of those residents do receive support with regard to council tax. Please think with your heads and not with your political thoughts. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Phil. Members, I have a motion that's been proposed and seconded. Obviously, enter into debate now. Members, please be aware I'm going to go to group leaders, and then I'm going to be pretty forceful today. Members, it's open to the floor. afterwards. I believe Councillor John Brottingham would like to speak on behalf of as an independent on the finance panel. So I'm going to give him an opportunity to speak, but I will let members speak after. But members, I'm not looking for repetition today. I'm looking for members to develop points which are coming out of the debate. Members, I'm going to ask you to be aware of what was said last week. We are still in the current meeting, so I'm hoping that that we can have some good debate on this amendment. Councillor Rosemary, you were the first leader. You were the first group leader that has come on the screen. So I'm going to invite you to speak on the amendment, please. Other group leaders, please indicate in the app in the meeting chat.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, everybody. I think we need to set this discussion today in the context of the past. I'm not keen to look backwards, but there is a context here in terms of budget setting and the budget that we've had the ability to deliver over the years. I think we have to recognise what's happened in the past. We had the 10 years of austerity. We've had a fairly good settlement in the last 2 years, but for most of that 10 years, we were bottom of the list in terms of
Leader, you're on mute.
Leader, for some reason you've managed to mute yourself there. I do apologise.
Yeah, I didn't do it, Chair, so I don't know whether there's an issue there.
No problem.
Yeah, I apologise.
Councillor Rosemary, before you move on, I've seen your comment, Councillor James. There is a speak app there. If it's not there, I'll certainly come to you after. Councillor Rosemary, apologies.
That's all right, Chair. I was just talking about the context that we need to set this budget in. We've been bottom of the list for some 10 years. We've had 2 fairly good settlements in recent years, but other authorities have been at the top. They've managed to build up reserves, some of them very significant. And some of them now have reserves, approaching 200 million. And that's one reason why some other authorities can set a very low council tax increase. They can draw on those reserves. We have been warned by Wales Audit Office that our reserves are not as good as they should be. They're still fragile, although we're managing to build them slightly. We also know that we've been on a 5-year improvement journey. I was told just weeks into my leadership that I would need to put in place a permanent senior team of officers, and we were all aware that we were told to improve our children's services, and of course sometime later we were told to improve adult services and education. Of course we did all this through the Improvement and Assurance Board. I actually invited opposition group leaders to join that board so that you were aware of the issues for yourselves. Of course, we then had to invest in service areas, and it had to be a significant investment, for which we asked for a 9% increase in council tax. And it's worth remembering, when we had to ask for that 9%, we were still in those years of austerity. So things were tight. We couldn't invest without raising the council tax. Now, we heard last week the opposition saying that they were doing this for the people of Powys, but your short-term gain of less than £1 a week is hugely disadvantaging for the people of Powys for future years. And you know that. You can see that. If you understand the budget at all, you surely should be able to see that. And for those of you who claim to represent wards where there's a level of deprivation, you're inflicting long-term more deprivation on them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Rosemary. That was perfect. I was just going to give you a shout of time. Councillor James, I've seen you're in the queue now, so if you're happy, I'll take it as they are. But I acknowledge that you were having problems. Councillor Jeremy is first, followed by Councillor Elwyn. Councillor Jeremy, are you with us?
I come in now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm somewhat bemused by the previous statement, as our council tax has risen where this goes forward in excess of 30%. The only way forward to cover inadequacy seems to be continually putting the burden on the ratepayers. This has to come to an end. We have to run budgets within budgets. We have to make things work properly. This money that is being used is set aside to support council tax. It is not part of budget making. It is not going to affect children's services, adult services, or any other thing. This might affect the long-term revenue and what we're holding in reserves, but there are an awful lot of people out there who are genuinely struggling. And the scaremongering, what I've heard this morning, I've got to be honest with you, I won't comment any more than that on. But our first thing is to support our council taxpayers, our young people with prowess and elderly, and to make sure that they who are struggling at this moment get our full support. Let me also point out to you, we have in excess of 5 to 6 million in debt. If we set about bringing that debt in, it would produce a far bigger yield than the £3 million that we're wanting to use to put forward to support a 0% council tax, or 0.01 as it needs to be now. So can I tell you all, look to yourselves. The people that represent you will be looking at this vote. They will be wanting to know how much you're supporting them, because we have to start at home. Charity starts at home. Our own are struggling and need support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jeremy. We move on to Councillor Elwyn. Bore-da, Elwyn.
Bore-da, Cadeirydd. Thank you. Diolch yn fawr. Cadeirydd, week is a long time in politics, and many silly things have been said in that week. As I said last week, there are 3 things that we wanted to see as part of the budget discussions: increased premium on second homes, new support for the theatres to make up for the proposed cuts, and in view of the new income from Welsh Government, the proposed tax increase of 3.9% is lowered to assist families in these challenging times. The other thing we want is a lower council tax without increasing liabilities, pressures and further debt for the future, leading to higher council tax for the next 4 years or further slashing of services. As has been made crystal clear by the 151 officer, all options below 3.4% will lead to that scenario. We know that council tax is a regressive taxation and should be got rid of. This principle is contained in the Plaid Cymru agreement with the Welsh Government. In the meantime, reality is a motion to reduce council tax any further would have no impact whatsoever, or in such small amounts, to the 10,000 residents who earn least and get council tax support. The people who would gain the most are literally those in Band G. However, most of our residents are at Band C or lower, so will gain the least. I am not willing to penalise our residents ever more, to see services for the poorest and most in need slashed further. We need to come to the real world. We can promise a bucket full of sweets to all today if you want, but then also be honest and tell them that you'll be taking them to the dentist tomorrow to take all their teeth out. Failure to do that is disingenuous and misleading. The position regarding reserves is clear. There's a policy accepted by this very council not to use reserves for short-term fixes in council tax. The budget has over 7 million in liabilities, and the reserves pot is there as an insurance policy. The allocated sum towards wage inflation is set as 3%. Other authorities are 4% allocated. That means another potential 1.6 million liability. The Wales Audit Office is clear in wanting us to increase reserves from being one of the lowest in Wales. We need a common sense approach which secures lower council tax whilst also preserving our services. We understand that Powys Council still suffers from the austerity agenda that commenced with the 2010 Conservative Lib Dem government, which has left Welsh Government with £3 billion less funding than it should. It would be good for some to remember that fact. Finally, Chair, on a personal note, members of one political group in this council have been very personal in attacking me in recent days. It just shows how little they know me. I'm not a voice or a puppet for the Conservatives, but neither am I a voice or a puppet for you Lib Dems. I am, and Plaid is, fiercely independent voice for Powys residents, who yes want lower council tax, but also want a council that doesn't drown in debt, which has to be paid back by our residents with further crippling taxes in the future and services slashed even further. Members, I know there's an election looming. But let's all try and raise our heads above that and focus on best for our residents and this authority, not just for today, for the next 4 years. And whoever of you...
Okay, Councillor Elwyn, I thought you were concluding, but obviously not.
I have, actually.
Apologies, Elwyn. Diolch yn fawr. Members, we move on to Councillor James, followed by Councillor Matthew. Good morning, James.
Good morning, Borough Chair. I listened with interest to other contributors, and I'm particularly wondering whether the Deputy Leader of the Council may wish to reflect on whether it was wise to invoke the appalling tragedy taking place in Eastern Europe at the moment in support of the County Councils, or his budget proposals for the County Council. However, leaving that aside, a great deal has been made about the fact that if we don't impose this council tax increase, it'll make a massive difference to the council's budget in the future, and that, you know, it will inevitably result in cuts in services and so on. So I took the precaution of looking at what the budget was for the council, the net revenue budget when this council began in 2017-18, and it was £240.6 million. And we are now bursting through the £300 million barrier. And if things continue as they are, and this budget is passed and the 5% year-on-year increase in council tax is baked into the medium-term financial strategy, we will burst over £344 million by the time of the end of the next council. That means the council's budget in 10 years will have increased by £100 million. So for all the talk of austerity and the difficulties that caused us, that the leader raised, we will nevertheless have increased the council's budget by £100 million in just 10 years. It's quite an achievement. And the problem with that is that this is a process that frankly is not sustainable. At some point, we have to move away from the idea of an annual, year-on-year, inexorable increase in council tax. And the Welsh Government has given us an opportunity to do that this year by providing us with this extra funding. And frankly, to see the council's budget grant settlement increase by nearly 10% and then get a bit more money on top, or quite a lot more money on top, and to then impose an over 3% council tax increase seems pretty counterintuitive. We're not managing this money very well. Let's be frank about it. And it's time we started, because we cannot go on and on increasing the budget in this way. We have to start getting some control over expenditure. And if, let's face it, most of that £100 million increase will have fallen on the council taxpayer. And some of it will have come from central government, but the vast majority of it has fallen on the council taxpayer. And that really is not on. And this is the moment to call a halt. So I think that's all I have to say, Chair. Many thanks.
Thank you, Councillor James, for your contribution. Councillor Matthew, I'm going to come to you next, and then I'm going to go to Councillor Karen, who's indicated lower down the list as a group leader. Councillor Matthew.
Thank you, Chair. Grateful for the opportunity to respond on behalf of the Welsh Labour Group in relation to the budget amendment put forward by Welsh Conservative group members. I just want to pick up on a couple of points that were articulated by the council leader. I agree with her in terms of the impact of austerity on council services. None of us should forget where that came from and why there is less money for public services, because of a political choice of a UK government. And Elwyn Vaughan, the leader of Plaid Cymru, is absolutely right to say that the Welsh Government has been starved of the finances that it is deserving too. And of course, that has an impact. But it is just simply wrong for the leader of the council to say that she had to raise council tax over 9%. That was a political choice. Her leadership made a choice to increase council tax by 9% that year. And actually, her administration has increased council tax every year that they have been in office. Those are choices that they have to stand by and accept responsibility for. But I would just point out to the leader of the council and others that despite those council tax rises year on year, communities like mine are not any less poor because of their council tax rises. They're not more prosperous because of her council tax rises. And despite her council tax rises, communities like mine have seen our youth centre closed, our library opening hours slashed, street cleaning stopped, tourist information services closed. So could you please explain then why she believes that raising council tax is the answer to the council's severe mismanagement and of its finances, because that's how we've arrived at this situation. Cabinet has not been able to manage the budget effectively, but they've created a significant hole in the council finances. And what we will propose later isn't to take more money from services. In fact, it proposes using the resources that we have to offset a significant pressure for families across this county. So I would just remind council that we all have choices to make today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Matthew. I'm coming to you now, Councillor Karen.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to speak. So I would obviously agree with what Councillor Matthew and as just said. Can I just say that it all boils down to, I mean, we all talk to our residents. People contact us from across the actual Powys, and obviously I'm speaking on behalf now of our new group, New Powys, and it's just about people actually reporting to us county councils, and it's our duty to listen of the waste that they can see, the financial waste in the delivery of our public services, be it duplication of highway tarmacking, not using the proper equipment, other matters to do with tree felling, obviously as children's services, etc. We more fingers on the pulse there now, which is all down to the good improvement in management and financial management, and due credit to the portfolio holder and to the council with Welsh Government for ensuring that has happened, including social services. And whilst we realise that there is needs, obviously, in these areas that they need more money, we are wasting money. We have excellent people, financial expertise, who are councillors, who are actually on the finance panel, and we should listen to them, because at the end of the day, the finances in this authority, monies are being wasted. We are not clawing back on projects, etc. We're not actually got our finger on the pulse. And you know, I can even go back to a simple thing, and we can talk about toilets. £245,000 it costs this authority to maintain the toilets across Powys. That is absolutely ridiculous. You would probably pay £25 an hour for somebody to go along and open, you know, and just change the toilet rolls and empty the bins, etc., etc. We've got a duty to the public, and we've got a duty to ourselves, and respect. Respect is the actual key thing here. We have a duty and a respect of our respect to our public, to the people of Powys, and to our fellow councillors and to our officers, in actually working together as a solid financial management team. And we wouldn't find ourselves in this challenging situation of actually having to adjourn meetings and then reconvene regarding the council tax. We actually in Powys have been given a gift horse from the actual Welsh Government to enable us to actually reduce the council tax this year, and hand in glove with good financial management improvements, we can deliver that. And I fully support the motion put forward. The motion put forward to actually the 0.1%.
Councillor Karen, I'm asking. It is your conclusion. Yet there is no other live amendment to the meeting, so
okay.
We're dealing with the amendment which was proposed by Councillor Alid. Thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Rachel, I acknowledge that you are next. I'm going to go to John Rottingham next. He's requested to speak. I've allowed him to speak in the past. So I'm going to go to John Rottingham. Sorry, John, I introduced you previously as a councillor. I wouldn't like you to take that comment on board. John, welcome to the meeting. Members, you will obviously know, but for the benefit of the public at home, John is our independent member on our financial panel and audit committee, who is independent of the council and has requested to make comment today. Good morning, John.
Good morning. I'll try and be as brief as possible. Thank you, Chair. The Finance Panel examined the draft budget early in February and produced a report which is among the papers in front of you today. The panel welcomed the robust scrutiny undertaken by the 3 scrutiny committees and confined its own observations to assurance that the inherent risks are being managed and that the budget is deliverable. I don't propose to go through that document in detail, but specific comments regarding council tax assets and reserves were included, which I would like to enlarge upon, if I may, briefly. Take firstly reserves. The panel welcomed the proposal to maintain the minimum level of the general reserve at 4%, but also noted the words of the Section 151 officer that they would still be at the lower end of acceptability. This is reinforced in the Audit Wells report on financial sustainability, which stressed that usable reserves had declined in recent years for whatever reason and were relatively low in comparison with other Welsh authorities. I'm sure it's clear that members that there is a significant risk associated with many of the efficiencies, but it is also an embedded principle in the MTFS that reserves will not be used to fund recurrent budgetary pressures. This budget was drafted in happier times, pre-energy crisis and pre-war. Although substantial provisions have been made against the inevitable peak in inflation which is coming, particularly for pay awards, national insurance increases and so on, about 140 million, that's just under half of our budget, is on pay expenditure. Just 1% of inflation above that provisioned here will cost 1.5 million. And the expected peaks are likely to be somewhat more than the 1%, as you can have heard. Potentially, of course, this will place a great strain on departmental budgets. The Section 151 officer believes that this is manageable, but to cope, expenditure would have to be curtailed, capital projects delayed and substantial changes in scope of those projects. The authority needs the reassurance that reserves are there against further unexpected challenges. Now, reserves can, of course, come under many headings, but they are really all one pot. I've been on the council long enough to see violence between them to cover financial emergencies. And I've been saying now for some time that this is not the time for reduction in reserves. Can I then move to the capital programme? The Governance and Audit Committee recently completed a study of the affordability of the capital programme going forward. It concluded that the figures for debt servicing this year and for the near future is less than that passed in last year's budget, due mainly to COVID delays. However, we did propose that a warning limit be set to re-examine the affordability as new proposals unfold, and I trust that the new council will adopt that approach, because I think it'd be wise. Lastly, council tax. I've been on record now for some time to seek a modest bolster to the reserves, accompanied by an absolutely minimal increase in the council tax. This, I thought, might be funded by some economies which we've been able to put onto the back burner as a result of the better than expected settlement.
John, likewise, I'm going to ask you to conclude as well, please.
Okay, I'll conclude very quickly. I'm sorry that I'm not going to come down on the definitive percentage on council tax, but my role is to bring a commercial approach, minimising risk to the authority, maintaining appropriate reserves. It's for members to resolve the conundrum that I've outlined. It's a real catch-22 situation. I feel sorry for you. If I may, Chair, can I just, this is probably my last contribution to council affairs. If I may just thank officers and members for all the consideration they've given me in the past and made my last 10 years a fruitful and enjoyable experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Yes, I'm quite eager to get the debate through as quick, but in view of the fact that you mentioned that, I think it would be remiss of me that I didn't thank you for your independent help over the years. I certainly sat in the audit committee and certainly welcomed what you've had to say on many occasions. So I thank you on behalf of the council for your contribution and your assistance. It's been a long time now, and I certainly thank you for that. Thank you very much. Members, I believe I've given all group leaders an opportunity to speak. Now I've got a list of members also wishing to speak. Members, my standpoint today is very clear. I'm not looking for repetition. I'm not looking for a repeat of what's already been said in this meeting, and that includes what was said last week. I'm sorry to say this in front of yourself, Councillor Rachel, but I mean it for all members. Councillor Rachel, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just want to emphasise the Director of Social Services, there's a statutory duty to advise the council of the resources required to deliver an effective social service function, and has recommended this budget to the cabinet. When I first came into this role, this council proclaimed no prior knowledge of the serious concerns within children's services, and there was a call for openness and transparency from here on, and I believe that that's absolutely been provided as reassurances for the whole council. I just want to remind councillors of the sombre facts that was thrown our way in July 2017. Care and support for children and families were insufficient, delays and drift in supporting children and families effectively, evidence of missed opportunities to safeguard children. This service remains on an improvement journey 3 years in, amongst additional challenges of a COVID pandemic. The implication in children's front door has been threefold, and there's been a huge ripple throughout the whole service. Despite this financial year, 13 fewer children have come into the care of the local authority compared to last year. The service needs commending. The previous changes in supporting the early help intervention offer has withstood the additional need and unforeseen demands of a COVID pandemic. And I just want to refer to 2.119 of 151 guidance from the 151 officer, who has emphasised about not all pressures are funded in this budget, but also, more importantly, about unexpected events. This has been an unexpected event historically for all. Children's services absolutely needs to protect in order to support all vulnerable groups, irrespective of the backgrounds or where they live. We have to be aware of that families remain under strain. We've got mental health is increasing, we've got domestic abuse, and we've got an increase of Section 47s that we've never seen before. We need to anticipate supporting possible families who are needing and supporting from children's services in the future, and that includes possible refugees that will be coming to our country. This fragile service that is significantly fatigued already and has got a low morale has been tested. We have a national shortage of social workers. By not supporting this budget, you are jeopardising all vulnerable groups, a service that has been committed, faithful in going above and beyond to safeguard young people for this council. If you vote against, you are demonstrating a lack of understanding to the implications of what this means for the service and the council as a whole for the future. And Councillor Pugh, you most definitely has demonstrated this. You are devaluing social workers and all children's services staff in what they have achieved to date, despite the odds, and what they continue to try to achieve in their improvement journey, as well as the current sustained demand at the front door. I am not willing to compromise on progress or standards. We all have a responsibility, and no one here can ever say that they did not know or understand the implications of not safeguarding this service. However, my conscience is very much clear. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Rachel, that was dead on time. Well done. Councillor Mike is next, followed by Councillor Ian. Councillor Mike Williams, good morning.
Good morning, Chair, and you'll be pleased to know that I will be brief, because one of the items I was going to mention is that which Councillor Rachel, on behalf of youth services, etc., she has already spoken so eloquently. What I would like to add, Chair, is my worries if we reduce the budget overly, the problems that we will create for our elderly and disabled. Here in Machynlleth, I'm sure it's not that different elsewhere. There is a huge shortage of care workers. I'm told that one care worker had to come up from Essex one day last week. So I'm not going to vote for a budget that is going to jeopardise such services for the elderly. I also appeal, Chair, on behalf of libraries and leisure centres. Heaven forbid if we should cut those services, especially for an area such as Machynlleth. It's a smallish town, right on the periphery of Powys. I hope to goodness that we will budget enough monies to look after our current services and those that we need to grow for the future, and ensure that we have enough reserves for the unexpected, well, perhaps not so unexpected. I'm obliged to you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mike. We move on to Councillor Ian. Councillor Ian McIntosh, followed by Councillor Joy Jones. Good morning, Ian.
Thank you, Chair. I think Karen Laurie Parry was before me, but happy to go now.
Karen has already spoken as group leader. She won't have another.
Oh, right. Okay.
Option.
Of course. Yes. Sorry. Yes. Thank you. I just wanted to say over the last week, during last week's meeting, since then and today, we've heard claims that people who don't agree to put in council tax are political, reckless, irresponsible. We've just heard Councillor Rachel saying that we don't understand services. Well, I don't find that particularly helpful at all, because I have serious reservations over a number of issues. Some of them I raised last week, which I won't repeat. But the concerns I have, and this is related to a question that I've put into the questions at any time service, which we're still waiting for a response, is how out of control our cost of service delivery for social services is. I think that once people get to see what the state of that service is in, then they might think twice about us having to put council tax up, rather than trying to sort of streamline that and get the service costs back under control. I also have issues with how over the last term people like myself and others have put forward suggestions of improving services and making more money, such as car parking. I can barely even mention those two words without sniggers of from other members. But when we get to make ideas like that, we're told it's not a priority right now. Well, what hope do we ever have of improving services if there's no appetite to improve those services and make more money, but be quite happy to put council tax up? So that's, I'm afraid, why I will not be supporting this council tax rise. And that's not me being political or unhelpful or difficult. It's just a point of principle, and I think that I wish some more people would start to adopt the same attitude. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Ian. Councillor Joy, followed by Councillor Gareth.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm going to speak as anti-poverty champion for Paris County Council, and this isn't as a political speech. I'm concerned about our residents. I've had many residents come to speak to me over the last week, because obviously things have been said about last week's meeting and about the difference it's going to make to people's lives with the rates and what they'll have to pay. And so I approached the food bank this week to check out how many food parcels have had to be collected in the last 2 months, and to today's date, from the beginning of January, in Newtown alone, not in Paris, in Newtown alone, there's 147 packages being collected. Now, that's a huge figure. That's an increase from this time last year. There was 96 packages. This is massive. This shows the impact that the pandemic and lack of money coming into families' homes, the actual costs, the rises in fuel and things that are going up. People are really struggling. Households are struggling now, and these aren't people that are able to claim rebates. These are people that are hardworking, people that are going out to work and using their wages to try and pay those bills, people that are trying desperately to keep their heads above water, to hang on to their homes. If people become homeless, that will have a massive impact on the council. So we need to keep people in their homes and prevent that happening. I've also been approached by people that are really panicking because their rent is going to increase. The council's putting the rent up. They've had people are getting letters now from different housing associations telling them that their rent will be increased. That's besides what they'll then have to pay on top will be their council tax. So people are worrying. The pandemic has had such an impact on many hardworking people that were off work due to the pandemic, and yes, they did get furloughed, but most people got 80% of their wage. That 80% has had a massive impact on many families due to the fact that many families in this area are on low wages, so they live to 100% of their wage or even 110%. So take away 20 to 30% of what their normal income, how they live. It's been huge. It's had a huge effect. It's left them in debt. It's left them struggling, trying to pay off now that they've gone back to work. They've not seen it, and most places haven't seen increases in their wages, and people are struggling. Chair, I have to bring it forward. This is something I need to bring forward once again due to the fact that I have had so many people approach me, and people are afraid. People are afraid of the future now, especially as we're hearing about the gas and electric going up, and I'm drawing to a close now, Chair, but it is a
very
real
quickly, Councillor Joy, please.
Because food has increased also. So the problem is food banks only work if they can get the people to be able to donate, and they're finding they're not getting people donating as much any longer. So it's also an appeal for the food banks, because it's really important.
Councillor Joy, you are pushing your time now, please.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Joy. Councillor Gareth, followed by Councillor Cath. Welcome, Gareth.
Thank you very much, and welcome, members. Thank you, Councillor Joy. What I'm going to say now actually dovetails with what Joy has said. I've looked and thought long and hard regarding this, and I just want to put some figures to you, councillors. I'm a father of two. I'm lucky, you know, I am subsidised because I have the support of the council job, but it is a lot of hours. But so I'm a lucky one in the county. But water rates, my bill is £650. Looking at council tax, we're looking about increasing it. My gas bill is up over £40 a month. My electric bill is up over £50 a month, and yet we still the increases again later on this year and possibly further on. Mortgage or rent, my mortgage, just a little change in interest rate, has gone up £25 a month. Car, last year it was costing me £50 to fill my car. It is now £75 for me to travel to and from work and to go anywhere within the community, because we live in a rural setting. National insurance is going up in April. Car insurance is up 5% in January. Food bills are up over 5%, but a lot of the supermarkets and stores remove their value range because of the volume profit within there. So it's not simple 5%, it's more and vastly more, and Joy has highlighted that, you know, food is costing a lot more. Phone, telephone, broadband, we're sitting here now, that has gone up 9%, BT and all other has gone up 9%. Pensions is £724 per month. I know we talk about the people who are going to be supported through council tax and have council relief, but it's not, it's the people, not just them, it's the people who are on that line or on that second part there. So for me, we control our controllables. A lot of this is out of our control, but the council tax we have a say on. We have a say on how it's managed and how we deliver that. So I just wanted to put some context behind what an average father, an average family is facing. And we have this influence here now to make that decision. So members, whatever the council tax is, we have to be able to live with it. So please think strong, think hard about families, people living on their own, the impact. We control the council tax. That's the only thing we control, with everything else going up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gareth. Councillor Cath, followed by Councillor Linda, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I know none of us like to see any increase in council tax, but by the same token, we will all expect services to be delivered. We hear it every time we come to a meeting. Why haven't I had this done? We want our services delivered to our elderly, to the children in our care, to education, filling in potholes, clearing drains, and many, many more services. But without this increase in budget, these will all be slashed. Remember that, they will be slashed. What we will be left with, I shudder to think. In the process, we will have to make staff redundant. And at what cost, I ask myself. I don't want to repeat what other people have said, so I've curtailed a lot of it. How will the capital budget be affected, I ask myself. I have been fighting for over 20 years now for a new school for Brynllawr. And at last it's on the programme, and hopefully it will happen. But if this happens, I really, really worry for that school and also for Cadwyn. These children are the most vulnerable in our society and in our council area, and we really do need these two schools to be built. But if this budget doesn't go ahead, then I would severely be worried about whether that will happen or not. I appeal to you all, have a bit of common sense and vote for a reasonable increase of 3.49%. for the sake of all of our residents in Powys. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Kath. Welcome, Councillor Linda, followed by Councillor Amanda.
Right, thank you, Chair. I'll be brief. I didn't speak at the last meeting, but because there were a lot of speakers anyway, but no one, not one of us in this council wants to raise council tax. If year on year we could have a 0% increase, we would do. It's not an easy decision for any of us to make, but none of us want this. But in the real world, we do have to do this. Residents, as Kath said, as many have said, although they don't want to rise in council tax, they do still value the service that the council provides. They don't want reduced bin collections, lights switched off, etc., etc. I could go on at length, but I won't. But they do value these services, and unfortunately, they do get more expensive to provide each year. I mean, I won't be here after the 5th of May. This is my last term as a councillor, but I do still care about this council being able to deliver the services that it has done. Because although we can be critical at times of certain areas, by and large, we do a good job and have delivered good services and a wide range of services. So I do care about what is left, the legacy that is left for the new council coming in. And a 0% increase would certainly hamstring the new council and, well, really reduce their ability to provide and keep providing the services that residents do enjoy. So I would not wish to do that. We do not. The decision we make today, if we don't increase the council tax, those chickens are going to come back to roost on the residents in about 12 months' time, or even less than that. So let's not be currying favour today by advocating a 0% increase. Let's let this council go on, and when the new council comes in, they can still deliver. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Linda. Councillor Amanda, followed by Councillor Owl. You with us, Amanda?
Yep, sorry.
Welcome.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to speak briefly, very quickly, as Chair of Scrutiny before making my own comments without that hat on. In response to what Councillor Ian mentioned about the social care budgets, I want to assure Councillor Ian that both the children's and the adults budget have been scrutinised robustly by my committee. I'd like to commend my committee members, all of whom who attended the meeting, and those who didn't attend the meeting were thoroughly prepared. Some sent me in written questions. They had done a lot of work to be absolutely thoroughly prepared, and in particular I'd like to thank my Vice Chair, Councillor Liz. We scrutinised the budget at length. I'm not going to go through those comments because they are within the papers to this, and there were 7 recommendations which we came up, which are all within the papers for today. We challenged the officers. I'd also like to commend for their candour and their transparency, and I'd like to direct you to watch the 3-hour meeting that involved, and also to reread, because I'm sure you have read the notes which accompany that meeting. Now, taking my scrutiny hat off, I'm not going to go over old ground, and I'd like to completely endorse what Councillor Linda and Councillor Kath have just said. And I'm just going to briefly add, today we've been told we've got a choice to make. We've been told we need to be principled. We've been told we need to look at our values and what the impact this will have on our residents. I have absolutely done that, and I don't always get it right, but I've tried my best to speak to a range of my residents. I've tried to weigh up both the long-term risk and the short-term risk, the long-term impact to residents as well as the short-term risk to residents. This is not an easy decision. I see both sides of the argument, but I also want, James commented on a sustainable budget. I want a sustainable budget, and I believe this is. I do not believe using reserves is sustainable, and so I will be supporting this amendment, and I'd like to move my comments there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Amanda. We have Councillor Arrow, followed by Councillor John.
Okay.
Thank you, Arrow.
Thank you, Chair. My comments have been covered by Councillor Linda. Completely endorse them, and I'll definitely be supporting the amendment for a 3.39 increase. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Arwell. We have Councillor John Williams, followed by Councillor Jonathan, and then Councillor Edwin. I'm suggesting that is sufficient debate to go to the vote. At this stage, mindful of the fact if somebody's got some urgent comments, but I think we've had a good debate now. Councillor John, followed by Councillor Jonathan.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try not to go over everything that other people have said. Let's not forget why we're here today. It's because of the political games played last week. And, you know, last week was a total waste of time, in my opinion, when we should have been working together actually to work through this. I find it disgusting that any councillor would try and use the horrendous war and suffering of the Ukrainian people as a reason for increasing our tax. That's just beyond belief to me. That's awful. And don't forget, it's the residents that have year on year suffered in Paris by our increasing the tax. We can be in this position now to lower the council tax and help them in this time of need. We don't know what's coming, but we know it's not going to be good. We have a chance now to actually make a difference. After last year's budget, I met with the CEO to try and look at why we can't work together across all parties and all councillors to work through a budget which would improve services and would actually reduce what we need to put in. This fell by the wayside because of politics. We shouldn't be playing politics with our residents or this money or our services. I would support this increase if I truly believed it would have a positive impact on services. I'm afraid I don't, and that's from speaking to officers who tell me different. I really, really urge you not to go with this amendment because it will not make a difference. And if a decrease in this comes forward, I would support that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councillor John. Members, I've got Councillor Jonathan, followed by Councillor Edwin. I give our members an opportunity before Councillor John spoke. Nobody else has indicated, so Councillor Edwin will be the last speaker on this debate. Councillor Tim, I acknowledge you're having difficulty. I will allow Councillor Tim to speak because he doesn't have the ability to use the chat box. Alid, I also noticed that you have, okay, you're quickly putting your hands up in the box now. Alid, I acknowledge you've got the right to reply. I'll give you that right to reply. Councillor Liz, just in the interest of being helpful, I will allow you to speak, but I'm telling members now, Councillor Liz will be the last speaker before Councillor Alid has the opportunity to speak. Councillor John, followed by Councillor Edwin.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be brief, and I will avoid repetition. We've had a good debate this morning. We had a good debate last week. I find myself in agreement almost completely with Councillor Linda Caulfield in her observation that very few, if any of us, would actually want to see a council tax increase, but I think the circumstances we find ourselves in leave us with little alternative. I noted with interest the comments made by Councillor Radcliffe regarding the inflationary pressures that our residents are finding themselves in. I find myself in agreement with him, and I don't think we've seen anything yet. And every resident in the county will be already feeling the effects in terms of fuel and food prices. It's only just begun. And I think the comments made by Councillor Phil Davis at the beginning of this discussion, where he talked about inflationary pressures, I actually think he was quite conservative. I think we're going to see very, very serious inflationary pressures coming at us, and that's for residents and for people in business alike. With that background, I think to protect ourselves as an authority and our ability to deliver services, the authority is not immune from these inflationary pressures. We have to increase the level of council tax to the level that's been proposed. And so in summary, I would like to second Councillor Arwell-Jones's proposition that we move this to the vote.
Thank you very much, Councillor John. Councillor Edwin, Councillor Tim, Councillor Liz. Councillor Edwin.
Thank you, Chair. I'm only going to make one point, as everything else has been covered. I sit on the Community Health Council, and the other day they were relating to NHS problems and the major problem with bed blocking that's going on. I'm sure we're all aware of this in the county. And that effect, the main reason because of bed blocking, because the patients cannot be released because there is no care packages out there to look after them. We are know, I dare say that many of us know several people within our communities that are waiting for care packages. They can't get it. People want to stay at their homes, so they're looked after by and kept in touch with their close families, etc. So we do want to be in a position where we can turn around and pay our carers the wage they deserve, not the bottom end of the scale. They have to go into a house in the morning, get somebody out of bed, washed, dressed, breakfast and all within half hour, 3/4. It's nigh on impossible. Then travel anything up to 30, 40 miles to the next one. So please, everybody, we need to bear this in mind and put us in a position where we can afford to turn around and pay the carers a wage which they deserve. Diolch yn fawr, Cadeirydd.
Diolch, Edwin. Councillor Tim, please. Councillor Tim, your mic isn't up as yet. Give you a few moments there. How are we doing now, Councillor Tim?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we've got you now, Councillor Tim.
Thank you. Chairman, I sent round an email because this is something that I feel strongly about. I'm the last member of this council to have served on active service. I'm the last member of this council to have spent more years of my life than I care to remember watching to the east and what was going on there. In the words of the Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. We live in interesting times. It is a military precept that you do not disperse your reserves in a position of uncertainty. We cannot divorce ourselves away from the effects of the of what is going on elsewhere, whatever people think. Yeah. I'm sorry about that. My wife has to leave to. I have to go with her. Yes, they know that. They know that already. The interjection there, of course, was well meant. We really cannot, as I say, disperse our reserves in a position of uncertainty. I have commended the council on the work that it has done in catering for refugees from Afghanistan and from Syria. God knows how many refugees we may be called upon to assist coming from Ukraine. Do please listen to the words of an old soldier. I speak on behalf of the entire service community. Keep your reserves where they are, where they can be used as reserves, and support the budget that has been put forward by County Councillor Aled, the Head of Finance. Thank you.
Councillor Tim, many thanks. Councillor Liz, good morning. You are our last speaker from the floor. Good morning, Councillor Liz.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair. I wanted to say how disappointed I am really that this debate has focused on what I see as scaremongering and fearmongering. The public are listening to this debate and will be thinking now that if there's a reduction in council tax, they could lose their services. I really don't think this is a case. I think there are ways that we can make the savings, particularly from efficiencies and from using reserves. It is what creative authorities do, and now is the time to do it. It's about giving people some protection now to enable them to avoid having to come into the service. And we're not talking about a massive amount of money, not in relation to the whole budget. And, you know, I think that this focus that we've had today on personal social services, on children's services and adult services, to me, it is quite ridiculous. And I will be voting for the reduction and the very low council tax, and I'd urge other people to do the same. We can do it and we can sort this out, and we can give people both things. We can give them their social services and their children's services and everything else we need, but we can also protect people now from the kinds of things that Councillor Joy was talking about it is, you know, a dreadful situation that people find themselves in now, and we need to do something about it. You know, and it's not short-termism. It is actually doing something that is going to invest to save and to protect our services. So I'd urge people to make sure that they, you know, don't vote for a 3.9% council tax increase or 3.339% council tax increase. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Liz. Members, I'm returning to Councillor Alid now because he does have a right to reply. Councillor Alid, can I pre-warn you? I don't want you to repeat anything you said in your open salvo. You do have the right to reply to any comments which are made. Alid, I'd be grateful if you reinforce what recommendation you are making at the end, so that we can go straight to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Diolch yn fawr. Thank you, councillors, for the debate this morning. Clearly, there are significant differences between us with their views on the future of the council. Councillor Jeremy spoke at the beginning, and I would urge him and Councillor James and all others not to turn their back on the refugees from Ukraine. Powys is part of the UK and part of the wider Europe. We are not an island by ourselves. And it has to be remembered that all councillors had an opportunity to deliver an alternative budget. No one did. Councillors have mentioned we do not want that increase, but if we do not have this £3 million increase in council tax, we will have to deliver cuts of equivalent size, and it will damage our services. So, Councillor Matthew, I agree, we do have choices, and we have invested in our services over the years. We have rebuilt them, and that has been recognised by our regulators. They have recognised the improvements in our services. It is something we had to do. And you are right, we do have choices, but I am insistent that this council delivers safe services. Rachel, sorry, you were spot on, but Councillor Gareth, you indicated quite eloquently the inflation threats that our families face. You cited £20, £30, £40 a month increase in costs. Well, this council tax will increase the charge to homes by £1 a month, significantly less than the other challenges that households face. Councillor Joy, I have lists of various ways that the council supports our families. There's 22 or almost 23,000 households that receive a 25% or 50% discount in their council tax. And there are many other schemes, winter fuel grants, cost of living grants, pupil clothing grants. Our money advice teams have brought in additional £2.1 million to our households. And the council tax reduction scheme has a value for 9,970 people of over £10 million. So that it is support out there for our families. So can I urge the council to make the right decision today and vote for the amendment? Shall I read the amendment out?
Aled, just before you do the amendment, it was remiss of me. I would like to go to the 151 officer for comment, please. I think it's only appropriate at this point.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I just want to reiterate in terms of my opinion on the amended budget. So the budget proposed is a robust budget. I've set out my opinion in the various budget reports and on the subsequent amendment, and have reiterated that advice to members over the last few days. I trust that members consider that advice when making a decision today. The level of change proposed by the amendment retains a balanced budget and has minimal increased impact on future years. The proposal does therefore not change my opinion as 151 officer to that expressed in the original budget report. I therefore conclude that the estimates used in this amended budget proposal remain adequately robust, but as I've already highlighted, a level of risk remains for the Council's budget next year. Reserves are an essential part of managing that risk. The level of risk on the Council's budget for next year is greater than we have seen in many years, and we too are impacted by rising inflation and rising costs. Based on the assessment of reserves that we hold, the overall level is adequate, but remains at that lower end of acceptability given the scale of savings required, the ongoing impact of the pandemic and the financial uncertainty the Council faces over the medium term. But this proposal is robust and I can support it.
Thank you, Jane. Return to you, Aled. Please make your recommendation.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Jane, and thank you to John Brottingham for focusing on the reserves. The proposed amendment to replace recommendation 2 follows. 2.1. Council approves the revenue budget for 22-23 with the inclusion of a 3.39% increase in council tax for 22-23 at a net cost of 404,000. With the Section 151 officer instructed to publish a revised FRM if required as soon as possible. And point 2, that the cost of the recommendation in 2.1 is financed by the reduction in the minimum revenue budget, external interest budget of 404,000. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Aled. The recommendation has been made. Councillor Jackie, one, you shouldn't have used the chat box. You should have raised it as a point of order, but as it's been raised, it's not a point of order, it's a contribution to the debate. So I'm not going to allow, I've already said the debate is over. So as it is a contribution to the debate, I won't allow you to speak now and we'll go straight to the vote. I'm asking for the vote to go into the chat box now. There it is. Members, please, if possible, can you vote electronically?
Chair, not sure it's been seconded.
It was seconded in the beginning of the debate by Councillor Pill.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Members, I'm able to click on the electronic vote now and I'm proceeding to vote.
Sorry, Chairman.
Members, anybody that can vote, I will come to you for a verbal contribution afterwards. So if members can persevere to try and vote, we all know the recommendation which has been proposed. It's there for you in the voting box. I've been able to vote.
Oh, hang on.
Members, if you persevere, we'll give an opportunity for the electronic vote to proceed, and then I will come to you after.
Oh, dear. I think I've got it. I got it now.
Thank you, Councillor Cass.
I've got it now. Come on.
(62 votes cast, Chair).
Sorry, I've got it, Chairman, but it won't allow me in.
Okay, Councillor Cass, try and persevere. I promise you I'll come to you afterwards if you're unable to do so.
Okay.
And I'll check Councillor Liam's vote in a second, Chair.
Councillor Liam, I would much prefer that you do not use the chat box and raise your point if you wish anything to be confirmed.
Till 62, Chair.
No, I can't get. It's not coming up on my screen.
63.
Members, just a few more seconds on the electronic vote. We've just had a vote come in, and then we'll come to verbal declarations.
My screen's frozen.
All right, Councillor Kath, don't worry. We will come to you. We'll confirm whether you voted or not. I'm just waiting for clarification myself. So, always difficult in our virtual world.
Chair, may I ask, are we actually taken on board what Councillor Jackie Charlton has raised.
Councillor Karen, we are in the
sorry.
Councillor Karen. We are in the middle of a voting sequence. The debate has concluded. Please do not comment now. We are dealing with people's IT problems. The debate on this amendment has concluded.
Still 63, Chair.
Members, I am going to close the electronic vote. Members, I'm coming to members who are unable to vote, and I'm making assumptions now that you brought your cameras up. Councillor Tim.
For the amendment as proposed by Councillor Aled for the increase as suggested.
Thank you. Councillor Gareth.
Against.
Thank you, Councillor Gareth. Councillor Michael.
For.
For the motion. Councillor Kath.
I'm for.
Thank you. Are there any other members who are unable to vote? Councillor David Price. You with us, David?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Sorry, I'm having IT problems. I vote for the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor David. Let me assure members, all those members that declared verbally, we are checking whether they have voted electronically. So this is where it does take a little bit of time. Members, I'm giving the opportunity now before I close the vote. Has any other member been unable to vote? I'm not closing the vote yet because I'm still waiting for confirmation on Councillor Liam.
Yeah. Could you confirm my vote has been accepted via the normal process of form?
Councillor Liam, is that yourself then, yes?
It is indeed.
Yeah, sorry, I just wasn't picking up on the voice. Yes, we're waiting to confirm that, Councillor Liam.
Thank you very much.
I won't close the vote until we've received confirmation of that.
I can confirm, Chair, Councillor Liam has voted.
There we go. I'm now going to close the vote.
Gunther, my computer went down just as I voted. Can I please check that my vote? It's Kelvin Curry. Can you check that?
Hi, Councillor Kelvin. Okay, just in the nick of time. Councillor Kelvin, please. We'll wait for confirmation before we close the vote.
Councillor Kelvin has voted, Chair.
There we go. Members, I'm now closing the vote. Members, I'm just waiting for clarification. I apologise for this. Members are well aware now this does take a little bit of time. People who are watching at home, please excuse the silence. We need to get this right, and we're just doing the calculations. Thank you very much for your patience. Members, just to inform you that we've got clarification coming very shortly. I'm awaiting as much as you are yourselves. Members, please be patient.
Good morning, members. I have the result 36 for, 31 against, 1 abstention, total number of votes 68.
Thank you, members. The amendment has been carried, so that becomes part of a substantive motion now. Members, at this stage, I understand another amendment is coming forward. I therefore go towards Councillor David Thomas to propose this.
Chair,
Councillor Jackie.
yeah, sorry to interrupt, but I don't really know how else to ask you a question. You didn't want me to put anything in the chat box. My point of order came after the last member was allowed to put a raised hand in the chat box. Can you just tell me how what opportunity I have to question and put in a point of order, which I can't think how else I could do it other than put that in the chat box.
Yeah, no, you're quite happy to speak up. On this occasion, you'd put it in the chat box, and I judged your comment wasn't as a matter of a point of order, so I didn't see the point in letting you speak.
So, are you allowing me to speak now?
If it's a point of order, your amendment was your comment in the chat box wasn't a point of order.
No, I didn't put the point of order. I just said, could I raise a point of order? I was expecting to get a response to that request.
If it is a point,
polite way of doing it.
If it is a point of order, I'm more than happy to take it.
Okay, thank you. And my point of order is that refugees aren't paid for by the county council when they are rehoused in local areas. They're paid for by the Home Office, and that was my point of order. Thank you.
Councillor Jackie, my initial ruling stands. That isn't a point of order. It's a comment and a correction. The debate had ended, and so I was writing my judgment. It isn't a point of order.
Okay, but can you please give us instruction how to raise a point of order in future, please?
Please speak up. A point of order is an opportunity to speak up. I don't want it in the chat box. So if you've got a point of order to raise, I can judge it as a point of order. Your comment in the chat box allowed me to judge it whether it was a point of order, and it wasn't.
Thank you.
On this occasion, you've made the point anyway, which I didn't want you to make because the debate was over. Councillor David, your amendment is live now, so I'd welcome you to deliver it, please.
Thank you, Chair. Could I firstly share the sentiments and support expressed for the people of Ukraine because of this brutal invasion by Mr. Putin and his forces? During the earlier debates, there were some points made there that's, to be quite frank, I found quite incredible. There was some mention made by the portfolio holder for finance about alternative budgets. Now, whether that's trying to say that this amendment is irrelevant because we had the opportunity to put an alternative budget forward, I just don't accept that, because we're in a situation where the portfolio holder for finance has actually amended his own budget. So I think we need to put that to bed quite quickly. The other thing I find quite amazing, I've got the utmost respect for the independent member of the finance panel, but why on earth do we have to bring in a non-elected person to support the commentary put forward by the 151 officer, which is also endorsed by the cabinet? That makes no sense whatsoever to me. What it does say is that we need to examine that commentary very, very closely indeed. And I know the term scaremongering has been used. I wouldn't go that far, but I think it's only right that we do examine very, very closely the comments made there. And one thing I want to make perfectly clear, and I want all members to understand this, because a lot of you have been talking about service cuts in this budget. A lot of you have been talking about a reduction in reserves. This proposal does not bring forward service cuts in this year's budget over and above those already put forward by the cabinet. And as far as the reserves are concerned, it actually puts in place a mechanism where any use of the budget management reserve, not the general fund, can be replaced by the underspend that's projected in the 21-22 budget.
No.
So that, excuse me, Chair, I was speaking, I'm just being interrupted. Could I ask the Chair, please, to ask for people not to interrupt me?
Apologies, Councillor David. I wasn't aware that anybody else had spoken. I didn't pick up
Yeah,
on that, but
yeah.
yes, you were completely right in
And
your.
perhaps if the time can be taken off as well for that short.
Certainly, Councillor David, I didn't hear that interjection, but I apologise that I didn't pick up on it. I'll be honest with you, I did take my headphone off for a short, but members, if somebody interrupted David, please do not do so.
Thank you, Chair. So I just wanted to make that point that it does not represent a reduction in services for this year's budget. It does not necessarily represent a reduction in reserves. What it does do, and I'll admit that, and I'll explain this in more detail later, it does mean that we're going to have to work a little bit harder with regard to the medium-term financial strategy going forward. So, Chair, we're putting this amendment forward because of the severe hardship caused to residents by the current cost of living crisis. In essence, it's very similar to the amendment put last week, but calls for a council tax increase of 0.1% as opposed to a zero increase. The method of delivery is the same, to use the unnecessary budget management reserve fund to fund the reduction in council tax. The general fund reserve currently sits at 4.7% or £9.3 million against a target set of 4%. And it is the council budget, that the council policy, that's where it should sit. The budget management reserve sits outside this. We never used it, used to have one, and since its inception, it has never been used. If added to the general fund, it would take it over 6%. As mentioned earlier, for those averse to risk amongst us and requiring further cushioning, this reserve can be replenished from the projected underspend in 2021-22. Council has recently been treated to a basic lesson in arithmetic because officers believed councillors were incapable of understanding budget impacts. Perhaps we can return the compliment and give officers and the Cabinet a basic lesson in budget management. A budget is an organic entity constantly able to change through the interactive nature of the components used to build it. It's by examining and stretching these components that we bridge any gaps in the budget model. Mr. Chairman, I noted the comments of the leader earlier where she actually justified the 30% increase in council tax that was implemented on our residents by her cabinet by the perceived cuts in the settlement from Welsh Government. Now, if that is the case, we seem to have boxed ourselves into a corner somewhere because the argument seems to have been that by applying those severe council tax measures, we should, after this year's excellent settlement, have been in a position to ensure that we were putting next to no council tax at this difficult time against householders who are currently under enormous pressure. So consequently, Mr. Chairman, we propose to manage the budget gap created in future years' medium-term financial strategy by re-examining and stretching the budget building blocks. Areas such as the capital programme, capital receipts, income generation, council assets and service pressures can be re-examined. We propose and are prepared to set up a cross-party working group to assist finance officers during the process if required. To state the only way to bridge a budget gap is by service cuts is misleading and at worst, as already mentioned, scaremongering. Members, we were elected to this council to protect, not erode the living standards of our residents. That task has never been more urgent. They're currently faced with the biggest cost of living crisis in decades. And do remember what I mentioned earlier when you come to vote on this amendment, members. This does not represent a cut in services this year, and it does not necessarily represent a reduction in reserves. Please support this amendment, members. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor David. Before you switch your camera off, I would like to address a couple of points which I think I've allowed to happen. In relation to John Brottingham, I'm in the fortunate or unfortunate situation that I've been able to chair 2 budget debates in this authority, and last year that we went into thorough detail whether John Brottingham, as the independent member of the finance panel, was allowed to speak. We took a lot of advice on this, and he was judged to be a member of the council in view of his situation. My understanding also is that the finance panel agreed to John. I wasn't in the meeting. My understanding was that John Brottingham was allowed came from the finance panel suggestion. So I don't believe we've done anything out of the order in allowing John Brottingham to speak. David, does that satisfy you?
Well, yes, but I can just put this forward. I was at that finance panel, and this proposal was put forward by the chief executive, which is rather unusual to say the least. But it was an informal finance panel, and it certainly wasn't put to any votes. But my comments with regards to the independent member of the finance panel were not personal in any way whatsoever. And I want to make that absolutely clear. It was just the nature of what happened today.
That's absolutely fine, David. I'm just reassuring you the action I've taken in allowing him to speak. Councillor Rands, will you please not comment in the chat box? Councillor David Selby, I'm coming to you now for you to second the motion, if that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm pleased to second this motion on behalf of the Liberal Democrat Group, and indeed on behalf of many residents in Powys. I won't go over again the issues that David raised, but one I do think it is very important to raise right at the beginning. We've heard a series of speeches, either invoking the current situation in Europe, which I find rather distasteful to say the least, or irrelevant, and we've heard a whole list of reasons why we ought to be spending more money on services, which has nothing to do with our amendment, nor indeed the amendment that Aled is, as Davis has put forward earlier on behalf of the administration. We've had a long debate both today and a week ago, and I'd like to emphasise some of the points that have come out. We are told that this amendment is full of risk. The risk comes, in my view, not from this proposal, but from the budget that we've been living with for the last 5 years. It's the control of the budget, it's the delivery of the budget, it's the delivery of services that has been the risk over the last 5 years. We've constantly had a non-achievement of budgeted savings, which lead in the following year to pressure on council tax increase and pressure on the budget. We've constantly had a capital programme that, although welcome in theory, in practice is too costly for us to afford. And we've had erosion of services like youth services, for example, that mean that other costs in other areas increase. So it's a false economy to be dealing with those. As far as I read the views of the Section 151 officer, she identifies risk but not illegality. The risk, in my view, is in budget control, which is purely down to the administration. And as James Gibson-Watt pointed out earlier, the budget of this council during this period of this administration has gone up constantly by, and is projected to be well over 100 million on top of an initial starting base of 300 million. That is without the benefit that we can gather from service improvement over that period of time. Clearly, we voted once, and I urge us to think about what we're going forward with. This budget, if it goes through, this council tax increase, if it goes through, is an attack on the residents of Powys who cannot afford those increases. The end result of that will be more pressure on the services that other members have mentioned during this debate. Let's remember that. I'm quite comfortable that we have tried to come up with a full alternative budget. We worked with the Labour group on this budget. This is an alternative budget. It has been looked at by the 151 officer who says that it contains risk. My contention is that the other budget other rise also contains risk, and the delivery of our services and the delivery of our budget is about risk.
Councillor David, I've been lenient so far, so I'm looking for a conclusion.
I will conclude. I will conclude now. All I would ask us to do is to listen to our heads as well as our hearts in coming up with a budget and an increase that is acceptable, affordable, and is in no way dangerous to the budget of this council. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor David. Members, you've heard a proposal by Councillor David Thomas and seconded by Councillor David Selby. Members, that is an opportunity to debate. Members, as usual, Councillor Liam, I acknowledge your hand, but obviously I have to give an opportunity to your leader to speak first. Members, it's an opportunity for group leaders to speak. Please indicate now if you wish to speak, or I shall go to the floor. Please indicate now. Councillor Allard is indicated first. Councillor Tim, I will have to come to you after I've heard group leaders.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor David and Councillor Thomas, for your amendment. You will be aware that we had a group leaders. Over the past week, I've tried to reach out to the council and opposition groups. We had a group leaders meeting on Monday where the Section 151 officer explained the risk contained in your amendment. There's risk in all budgets, but the level of risk contained within this budget is unacceptable. I'm not sure 100% of the views of the 151 officer, but I assume they won't have changed since last week, because the level of the risk remains. Can I also say that council taxpayers contribute over 90 million pounds to the council tax net budget? In many local authorities, council taxpayers only contribute 25%, but here council taxpayers contribute 30%. If we were like other local authorities and that 90% represented 25% of our net budget would be £360 million. So there's an argument there that the net Welsh Government underfund Powys to an extent of £60 million year on, year out. So it's important to understand that we face significantly higher challenges, and that's why our reserves are essential. Can I congratulate the Liberal Democrats for having that online poll? I think it's titled "Zero is Possible." I looked at it this morning, and when you consider the population of Powys, I think it's over 330,000 people. They have managed to get 34 votes. Our public understand the importance of our services, and they are not falling for that trick from the Liberal Democrats and the Labour group. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Allard. Members, I'm still looking for other group leaders who wish to speak. Councillor Karen.
Chair, may I ask, could Councillor Liam actually speak on my behalf, please?
Certainly, he can speak as your group spokesman, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Liam, then, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Liam, we seem to have a bit of difficulty picking you up at this moment. Councillor Liam.
Chair,
Are you with us?
Chair, I've just been removed from the meeting, but I'm back in now. Could you explain to me how that happened? I'm at a loss.
I only assume it is to bad network quality. Let me assure you that nobody would have removed you from the meeting. Please speak now.
I would hope so, Chair. I think I would be rather aggrieved if someone should remove me from the meeting. Chair, I'm going to restrict my comments to economic comments rather than emotional comments. There's been a lot of emotional comments this morning. The first comment I'd like to make on an economic basis, Chair, is that all of our residents are vulnerable now. Our old people, our young people, our children, our taxpayers throughout the whole of the county. We're looking at an inflation level last seen 45 years ago, We're looking at a vast majority of our population who have to choose between heat and eat. We're looking at the biggest growth in food banks since 1928 in this country. We're looking at an NHS in crisis. We're looking at a mental health issue throughout the whole of the country as well. And we still haven't talked about COVID costs. All of our residents of all ages, of all classes, and no matter where they live in Paris, are all vulnerable now. And we must assist all of them, not just certain amounts of people who may be elderly or certain amounts of people who may be children, but across the board, we must assist all of our residents because we have the duty of care to all of our residents. Councillor David Thompson's proposal is very, very clever and very sensible. But that's what you would expect from somebody who's got a master's in economics from Oxford University, which David Thomas actually has. An extremely qualified, educated man who has over 40 years experience with one of the biggest retail firms in the country. This is a very clever proposal indeed and answers all the questions that all the political parties have. I'm going to fully support this amendment that David Thompson put forward because it gives us all a way forward to help all of our residents. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Liam. Councillor Matthew is next up as a group leader. Welcome.
Thank you, Chairman. It will come as no surprise that I will be voting in favour of the amendment that has been tabled by David Thomas and David Selby in the names of the Welsh Labour Group and supported by the Welsh Liberal Democrats. Made it clear last week that our view as a Labour group on this is that the cost of living crisis that is facing Powys families is so severe that now is the time for this council to act. The budget management reserve, which we are proposing to use, has never been utilised by the council and is not part of the general fund. So therefore, that if we do not use it this time, I ask council, when will we put it to work? Families are feeling the pinch of the cost of living crisis. There is great uncertainty in relation to the future of food, fuel and energy prices, and families are telling me that they are struggling to make ends meet. It is because of those circumstances that we are asking council to do all it can to support families in its county. I would just like to say that it is our view as a Labour group that a council tax freeze is what we would like to see. We have campaigned for that and tried to persuade council of that. Unfortunately, last week meant that that is no longer possible. So we have done all we can to find a solution to the problem that families in this council area are facing. And we are proud to put this forward because it means that we will be doing all we can to support families across the whole county in the communities that we all serve. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Matthew. Councillor Jeremy, followed by Councillor James, Councillor Rosemary.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to point out, when this budget was first put forward at 3.9 and then which was obviously going to go down to 3.4, there was no doom and gloom. The world was not nigh and everything was rosy in the garden. Then all of a sudden an unexpected extra payment was brought in from the Welsh Assembly, and which would adequately put into place and bring this budget down to a 0% finance and still leave some change. Now, all of a sudden, when this money arrives, that the budget which they'd already set and which was perfectly fit and ready to go, then becomes not fit for purpose. Where the money is coming from is not out of reserves, it is coming out of council tax reserves, a fund that was set up to support non-collection of council tax, which will not affect services. Then I'd like to answer the question to Alan about why we did not put an alternative budget in. We've tried putting an alternative budget every year, and let's be honest with you, every time we put there, we don't feel that we're duly given the understanding we believe we're entitled to. We're not treated fairly, and information like last year's budget was totally withheld from us. We didn't know that money was brought in. So this year, what we decided to do was to look and see exactly what was going to be, try and find out and understand when all monies are in at the end point, and then look to make a balanced view at that time, as we have done. And now to say that we failed to put an alternative budget up is incorrect. We're not in a position to put an alternative budget in because we need to have all the understanding of money available. And what I will simply say to you is, you will be judged by the electorate, because now we're coming to an election. People are struggling. There is more than enough money to support this motion, and Action for Powys is action against waste of money and overcharging of council tax. 31% in 5 years is absolutely beyond belief in one of the lowest wage earning parts of the whole of the UK. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Jeremy. We now move on to Councillor James, followed by Councillor Rosemary.
Chairman, thank you. Clearly, obviously, I'm going to support this this amendment. And I just, not a point of order, but a point of correction. The Deputy Leader of the Council said that Powys has a population of 332,000. It doesn't. It has a population of something over 130,000. So just as a point of accuracy. But I just think the members just need to think carefully here about the message that this council is sending out to its residents as well, and also to its own staff and its managers, and the way that we run as members. We are responsible for the way the council is run. And if we pass up this opportunity that has been given to us, which we will never get again, I suspect, we will never ever see an increase in our rate support grant of the order we have seen this year. It's inconceivable that we will ever get such an increase again. If we don't take this opportunity to make a significant adjustment to the council tax of this order, then we're never going to be able to do so. We will be stuck on an inexorable hamster wheel, if you like a hamster on a wheel of exponential increases in the rate of council tax, which, as members have eloquently put forward, many residents can't afford now, and fewer of them will be able to in the future. We have to use this opportunity to change the way the council functions, and this is just the first step in making us pause and think about the future. A message for the next council and those of us who are here, who will be here next time, and those of us who won't. But and the new members that are coming in, we have to somehow regain control of this juggernaut, and this is a very good first step to doing that. And I would urge members to think carefully and to support it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor James. We now go to Councillor Rosemary. Members, I'm given an opportunity then to go to the floor for speak. I guess members will judge that with the two amendments, most things have been said, but there is an opportunity to contribute to the debate if you so wish. Councillor Rosemary.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for allowing me to come back in. Much has been made during this debate of the council tax increases that have occurred during my leadership and the time of this cabinet. What hasn't been said is that we've had to take 100,000 and more out of the budgets along the way because we just didn't have good enough settlements. Much has also been said about poverty in one form or another. And this is exactly what we've been trying to tell the opposition, that this will increase pressure on budgets. We are, after all, providers of services as a county council. That's our role. If we haven't got the money in the future to provide those services, yes, indeed, there will be poverty. I think we've heard quite enough, Chair, and I think it's time to go to the vote on this subject. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rosemary. I acknowledge your comments. I've already I acknowledge that's within my gift, but I acknowledge that I've given an opportunity for other members to speak, so I will do so at this stage. But let me assure you, I won't let the debate continue for too long. Councillor Sandra, followed by Councillor John.
Thank you, Chairman. Members, I appreciate the opportunity to make some comments here. Just for people to be aware that within this budget there are cuts to services, and I think that people might be missing that in the debate that we're having now. But alongside cutting services, which are services that are essential to individuals and people feel that they are lacking in at the moment, they want improved services, not reductions to them. And yet we are purporting here by the original motion that was put forward by the Cabinet to increase council tax at the very time when people need extra support, and they're looking to us as councillors to give them that support. Welsh Government have recognised there is a need for extra support at this terrible time. I won't go through what we've already discussed, but we've just come out of COVID. We're still in the pandemic. It hasn't gone away. We don't know what tomorrow brings. And I'm not going to mention anything else. We can all see what's happening in the rest of the world. People are beside themselves. They need a glimmer of hope. They look for something to give them inspiration. And what do they get? More and more cuts to services, cuts to everything that's going on, except increases to the cost of living. And once the cost of living is risen, everything goes through the roof. It's time for us to start looking and look at ourselves as councillors and say, what are we here for? We are, and I'm here to represent the individuals that in the ward in which I live, and I'm proud to do so. And helping them by trying to improve services, reduce the cost of services and providing them, and reducing council tax. And I urge you, please, think carefully, as has been said, and protect the individuals that we represent. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sandra. We have Councillor John wishing to speak next.
Thank you, Chair. Every year at budget time, I've sat here with dismay and listened at the games being played. People seem to forget we should be voting on the motion. I'm not voting for or against something because of what group you're from or where you sit in the chamber. It should be about the people of Powys. That's why we were elected, to do the best for them. I am pleased I will be supporting this motion because it goes beyond looking at the council tax and the services. It actually extends a hand across all parties, across everyone in the chamber, to work together for the future of Powys and its residents, and to actually make a proper difference, rather than just increasing council tax willy-nilly and saying we need it for services. This motion would actually get people to sit down. Doesn't matter who you are, Labour, Lib Dems, unaligned, Conservatives, Independents. You can all sit together and actually work for the benefit of the council, its officers, and all the residents of Powys. And that's why I will be supporting this, because it goes further than just looking at the figures. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor John. Councillor Mike has just popped up. I was going to go back to Councillor David then very quickly, but Councillor Mike, I'll give you an opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Chair. Just briefly, yes, I do agree with Councillor John when he said about everybody getting together and come to a rational decision, etc., etc. But you see, we are talking about the now. And as I said earlier on, yes, it may well be that the larger towns will not suffer as much as the smaller towns and the rural areas if we don't have enough finances to support our people. I cannot possibly support something that will give us less money to look after our libraries and leisure centres. Fine, it may well not affect the bigger libraries and bigger leisure centres, but I know where the fingers will be pointing. If cuts need to be made, they'll be pointing at the smaller towns and the rural areas. That's what always happens. So please think carefully. I'm very simplistic with finances. I can just about manage my own, but I cannot for the life of me see that we will be more secure with a 0.01% rise than a 3.39% rise. I cannot see it. I'm very concerned about what might happen in the smaller areas. I thank you, Chair. I'm sorry I caused someone to sigh. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Mike, thank you very much. Thanks for your comment. I've got nobody else indicating at this point. Councillor Marine, you've brought your camera up. Come on, Councillor Marine, get in while your broadband works. Councillor Marine, in your urgency to speak, your mic isn't up.
I know, between the broadband not working and me not working. So I just want to say, I was sort of waiting for you to give some guidance on people who had lost part of their involvement in the last debate, and you didn't do it. And I, at the last moment, came back on and decided that because I had not heard all of the discussion, I was going to abstain. So I have abstained in that vote because I felt that it was the general rule that we've had all the way along in council. However, I have managed to hear all of this, and I shall vote as I wish. But I just wanted to make it clear and check that that was okay with you. And I'm not sure what you want people to do who have dipped in and out, either for coffee or whatever. But
I'll address that at the end of what you've got to say, Councillor Marine.
okay, that's lovely. Thank you very much. That's all I wanted to say.
Councillor Marine, as far as I'm concerned, I've got no knowledge that you weren't in at that moment in time. I haven't got a viewing of who's logged in at that time. I react on advice. In my understanding is you're quite welcome to vote if you're logged in at the time of voting. I'm happy to be corrected on that, but that's my understanding. I think there's a bit of a fallacy around whether you're in for the duration of the vote, particularly in this virtual world. My understanding, if you're there at voting time, you're able to vote. If I'm not told any different, we'll go with that. Councillor Karen, you brought your mic up.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak. I just wanted to say, Chair, I think whoever is in the next term of office for Powys County Council, then obviously what the Lib Dems and the Labour have put forward is very exciting, because it obviously is going to be more focused now on financial management improvements and using expertise from within the county councillors to actually support officers and whoever the leader is in cabinet to actually make these much needed changes. Now, I'll just say quite frankly is the fact that I support this the motion of 0.1%, because it guarantees that gift horse in the mouth that I refer to from Welsh Government, which wasn't costed into the original lead administration motion, by giving back to the people of Powys in view of council tax, is us endorsing that we know where that money is going, where it's gone. If it goes back into the corporate pot, I fear that we won't see it again. And that is all I've got to say, Chair. Thank you for listening, and I hope that people really take on board what others have said, and actually what I've just said, and support this motion. Thank you.
Members, I think there's been adequate opportunity for members to indicate. Thank you, Councillor Karen, for members to indicate whether they wish to speak. So I'm going to close the debate by returning to Councillor David Thomas, because he has a right to reply. Councillor David, same rules apply, which I stressed to Councillor Allard. The other thing is I will return to the 151 officer on the conclusion of Councillor David's right to reply in the interest of consistency. Councillor David.
Shouldn't the 151 officer come in before I have the right exercise the right to reply, Chair?
I'm looking for guidance on that. Whether I did it right or wrong, but I'm just exercising how I did it with Councillor Allard. Yeah, happy for 151 officer to come in before Councillor David. There we go, Jane.
Thank you, Chair. I think my mic is now up. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to go over, I think, in terms of the proposal itself, because it wasn't in the original proposal, but my assessment does include the impact of this. The change to the council tax increase from 3.9% to 0.1% will reduce the council's funding for 22-23 by just over £3 million, increasing the net budget requirement by the same. And obviously the proposal then proposes to use the budget management reserve to replace the funding lost, and that will maintain a balanced budget for 22-23. The receipt of the additional funding in the last quarter of the financial year is now projected to deliver a surplus outturn for 21-22. It is a projected position as it currently stands, and that surplus can be used to replenish the reserve as proposed, which has been drawn down. I do have to just ensure that everybody is aware that reserves and the use of additional funding are a one-off source of funding and will only bridge that gap in the budget for 1 year. That immediately creates a further significant gap in the budget plan for 23-24. It more than doubles that gap by over 6.3 million for that 23-24 year, and increases the cumulative gap over the life of our MTFS as it currently stands by up to an estimated 18.2 million over the 4 years. In order to balance that budget over the longer term, significant reductions and large increases in council tax will have to be considered. This will impact on services that the council delivers, and that's across all of our service, as many have already spoken about. And it will jeopardise, I think, in terms of our future capital investment. Both in terms of financial sustainability and our ability to maintain appropriate levels of service, the additional funding received could be used to strengthen our financial position. On the basis of what I've set out, again in many briefing papers and in my advice to council, particularly the impact this proposal has on future budgets and financial sustainability going forward, I strongly advise council not to approve this proposal. And I think if you refer to the FRMs that have been provided for both proposals, you can see the impact of both on that financial position over the 4-year period. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Jane. David, I think we're in a situation to return to you now.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be fairly brief. Just to address a couple of the points that appeared. I know that there are a few references made by members again to the fact that this proposal appears to represent service cuts, extra service cuts to this year's budget. That, let me assure members, that is not the case, and I think the 151 officer just clarified that point. The other point I'd like to make is that even though we are proposing to use this budget management reserve, I've said that there's a perceived underspend, a significant underspend for the year end 21-22. And when I asked the question of the 1-5 officer as to what would happen to that underspend, the answer I had was we'd put it into reserves. So it's very obvious from that answer that the 151 officer at that time was more than happy to replenish the use of these the reserves we're proposing to use. I'd also like to go back again to the comments that the leader reintroduced about the fact that cabinets have implemented a 30% increase in council tax on the residents of Powys during a period of tenure, and alongside that we've had serious heavy service cuts. In fact, you could argue that some services have been cut to the bone. What I can't understand is why we're in a position now when we've had the best settlement ever from Welsh Government, £18 million extra, and we are still asking our residents to cough up another 3.9% in council tax. That simply doesn't make any sense whatsoever to me. And if that points to good and efficient financial management, then, you know, I must have been educated on the moon or something. You know, I take on board, you know, and I'm pleased with the comment of Councillor Liam where when he referred to this as a clever solution. I don't want to blow my own trumpet and say, oh, it's a very, very clever solution, but I do appreciate it being described as that. What it is a simple solution. It's a very simple solution to a very complex problem, and a problem that's going to have an incredible impact on our residents. And it ensures that our residents are not going to be faced with this increase in their council tax bills at a time of serious pressures on their household budgets. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to reiterate again that this does not represent extra cuts in services this year. It does next year. It does not represent necessarily a reduction in the level of council reserves. The picture painted by the 151 officer, to be quite frank, is very pessimistic, and it doesn't accept the fact that the medium-term financial strategy, the budget gap created there, can be addressed after we set this year's budget, and it is possible to plug that gap. And in my opening address, I did outline how we could do that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor David. Members, you're aware now. There we go. Members, you're aware now from the debate that we've got an amendment proposed and seconded. I think we're in a position now. We've had sufficient debate. I think we're in a position now to go to the vote. So we're waiting for a vote to come in the chat box. David, would you remind us of your amendment, please, before we go to the vote, so that members are clear what we're voting on?
Yes, Chair. Just get it here. We propose amending the proposals for council tax down to 0.1%. We propose doing this by releasing the budget management reserve to fund the difference between 0.1% and 3.9%. We will replenish the budget management reserve with a forecast underspend in 2021-22. We also call for a cross-party task force to be established with immediate effect to address the budget gap and cost pressures and provide an update to the medium-term financial strategy as soon as possible. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor David. You rescued me there because I couldn't find the reminder myself. Members, the vote app is coming up in your chat box. Please try and vote electronically. Members, same rules as before. I will return to you if you're not able to vote electronically. It's there now, members. Members, I'm able to vote. I encourage others to persevere if they're having trouble, but please be assured I will come to you shortly.
$61 votes cast, Chair.
Chair, could you confirm that my vote has been accepted? Because well, if you could confirm that my vote has been accepted, I would appreciate that.
Okay, I'll check that in a second, Councillor Liam.
Thank you, Wynne.
63 votes cast, Chair.
As before, Chairman, I haven't been able to vote.
Okay, Councillor Cath, yeah, I'll come to you shortly.
Thank you.
Still 63, Chair.
Members, I think we've got a consistent vote now electronically. Councillor Karen, is it a question about the voting?
Yes, Chair. I did have problems, so could you just check that my vote has been received?
We will do so.
Thank you.
Members, we're now closing the electronic vote. We're checking Councillor Liam and Councillor Karen's voting ability, and then I'll come to members in relation to a verbal.
Chair, I can confirm Councillor Liam has voted. I'll just check the other two as well. Councillor Karen hasn't voted.
Oh, I did.
Councillor Karen, I'll come to you verbally shortly.
Thank you.
And Councillor Rachel has voted.
We go. Members, I'm coming to you verbally. I'm not sure. Councillor Tim, are you still in the meeting?
No, we had to go, didn't we?
Well, I understand he had to go. We're just checking if he is logged in and he's having problems. Councillor Michael Jones.
Against.
Councillor Gareth Morgan.
For.
Councillor Gareth Morgan is for. Councillor David Price.
Thank you for asking, Chair, but I managed to vote this time.
Thank you, Councillor David, for that clarification. Councillor Kath.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Karen.
For, Chair. For.
Thank you. Are there any other members that feel that they haven't been able to vote? Are there any members need some clarification? Because I'm going to close the vote. Members, the vote is closed. Members of the public, we will now probably have a short silence while clarification is given on the votes before we declare. Members of the public are still awaiting clarification. As soon as that's with us, we'll certainly declare.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. I can tell you the result of the vote is 31 for, 36 against, no abstentions. Total number of votes cast 67.
Members, the amendment proposed has been defeated. It still leaves us with a substantive motion to move forward. Members, I suggest common sense prevails, but in view of the Constitution as it reads, I do have to ask if there is any other amendments. If not, we move on. We go back to our agenda. And that takes us to the recommendations at 3. The document pack is there. I believe it's page 27 in your document pack. So I'm happy to move on.
Thank you, Chair.
Portfolio holder, we come to you. My suggestion is that you go to item 2 on the recommendation as soon as you can. Otherwise, have you anything else to say?
Apologies, Chair. Do I do all of them en bloc now, or just do the amended number 2?
I'm looking for guidance on that. I suggest 2, then 1, and then we have an opportunity to do recommendations 3 to 8 en bloc if it is the view of council. Clive, I'm happy for advice.
Chair, I think that's a sensible proposal. 2, then 1, and then members, if there's no anything to the contrary, we can take the others en bloc, but that's a matter for council.
Aled, you seem to have muted yourself there, please. Just before you start, Councillor Karen. Councillor Karen, your mic isn't on.
Yeah.
I'm not
Sorry.
sure what you're raising at this stage.
It's only, I just wanted to clarify, Chair, because the actual voting has just turned around and there's some people left the room. Will we be able to have a list of the actual votes?
Councillor Karen, at the risk of being repetitive, this question has been asked many times during this meeting, and the voting, the way people have voted is released and will be done so on the duration of this meeting.
Thank you.
Councillor Allard.
Thank you, Chair. I will repeat the amended motion at recommendation 2. 2.1. Council approves the revenue budget for 22-23 with the inclusion of a 3.39% increase in the council tax in 22-23 at a net cost of £404,000, with the section 151 officer instructed to publish a revised FRM if required as soon as possible. And 2.2, the cost of the reduction of 2.1 is financed by a reduction in the minimum revenue budget, external interest budget of £404,000. Thank you.
Members, this has been seconded by Councillor Phil, because it now has become the substantive motion. I assume now, do I open that up to debate? Or are we?
Chair, we have had. I would say we've already had a substantial debate on this during the course of this morning. But it is a matter for you. My advice is that the debate has been already undertaken.
I'm going to accept that advice, Clive, and we'll move to the vote. Members, the voting is there for all to see, so please attempt to vote electronically, please. Submit. Members, I've been able to vote. Please proceed to do so if you can. I'll give it a short time so that everybody has an opportunity to vote.
I seem to be in the same position, Chairman. It starts to load but doesn't get there.
No problem, Councillor Cath. Please be assured I'll go down my list.
Thank you. I'll keep trying.
Chairman, 60 votes cast so far.
Members, I've had information to say that we've got consistent in our electronic vote, so I'm going to close the electronic vote. Members, I'm going to give an opportunity for those that haven't been able to vote. Please, my list has shrunk now because I believe some people have left the meeting. I'm coming to Councillor Michael Jones in the first instance, please.
For.
Councillor Cath.
For.
Councillor Jonathan, you seem to be indicating.
Yeah, my screen froze, sorry, Chair. I'm for.
Thank you. Members, as I said, my list is depleted, so unless anybody speaks up that they aren't able to vote.
Gareth, count.
Councillor Gareth Morgan, sorry, I wasn't sure if you're still in the meeting. Councillor Gareth, how would you like to vote?
Against.
Thank you, Councillor Gareth. Councillor Karen.
Against, Chair.
Members, we do check all the verbal votes against the electronic votes. Members, are there anybody else who's got concerns or hasn't voted? Councillor William. Councillor William, your mic, please.
Thank you, Chair. Against.
Thank you, Councillor William. Members, I believe sufficient time has taken part, so I'm going to close the vote. Members, just as a means of an update, and members of the public at home, if you've just tuned in, we are waiting for a clarification on recommendation 2 on item 4 on the agenda, item 3 on the agenda. We're just waiting for a declaration on this matter.
Chairman, sorry to interrupt. Just James Gibson-Watt here. I just wanted to check how you're intending to take the rest of these votes. Are you individually or you've taken one individually now, haven't you?
Yeah, James, with your agreement, we'll have the declaration, and we can have a discussion. We can have a discussion on that in a minute.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, members. We have the result 36 for, 30 against, no abstentions. Total number of votes 66.
Recommendation 2 on page 27 of your budget sheet has been carried. Members, you heard Councillor James's comments in relation to the rest of the recommendations. There was a suggestion earlier by myself that we take recommendation 1 individually, and maybe take items 3 to 8 en bloc. I'm open to the advice of council or the suggestion of council.
Chair, just from my position as leader of the opposition, I think if you take the first 2 individually, I think you need to take 3 and 4 individually as well, and then the others which are more procedural en bloc, if that's my suggestion. But obviously other members have different views, clearly.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, James. I'm happy to accommodate as members wish, really. That's the only comment thus far. Is there any other comment?
Chair, I would prefer to take the whole lot en bloc, to be honest. Each vote takes a significant amount of time, and each element is important in the construction of the budget. They're all almost as equally as important as others, really. But I'm in your hands. I was happy with the first suggestion you made about taking recommendation 1, and then taking everything else en bloc.
Councillor Pete, you've obviously got a comment.
I would endorse what Councillor James has said. I have different opinions on 3 and 4 compared to 5, 6, 7 and 8, and I don't think it fair that my views are not taken into account in that way. So by bundling them all together, it stifles the opportunity of councillors to express the opinions that have been expressed to them.
Okay, I've got that now. I'm looking for a quick comment on this now so that we can make a decision and move on. Councillor Bev, followed by Councillor Carroll, I assume.
Yeah, very briefly, thank you, Chair. I just was going to suggest we take them en bloc as previously suggested by the monitoring officer. It's now 12:25. We've got a considerable amount of business to still do for the rest of the day, and I just would suggest that we take them en bloc as suggested by the monitoring officer.
Okay then. I don't think the monitoring officer suggested that, but Councillor Bev, but I acknowledge your view. It's okay. Carl,
Sorry,
please.
apologies.
Councillor Carl.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what Councillor Howard said. Let's take them on block. That's my view. Thank you.
Clive, I'm open to advice.
Chair, we've had some objections to taking them on block, and for that reason, I think we should take them separately, because that's the way which we should go. So I think everybody would be agreed if we took 1, 3, 4 separately, and then do 5, 6, 7, 8 on block.
That is a suggestion from the monitoring officer, and unless anybody tells me different, we will go with that. Recommendation 1, please.
Fair enough. It gives me a 5-minute breather between each one. Thank you, Chair. Recommendation 1: the medium-term financial strategy for 2022 to 2027, as set out in Appendix A, be agreed in principle. Thank you, Chairman.
Once again, I believe this has been seconded, so we can go to the vote, and it's recommendation 1 on page 27 for those members who are unclear.
Chair, I don't believe 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8 have been seconded, but sorry, just to be pedantic. So if somebody could second those, please.
Yes,
there will be no confusion then.
Councillor Pearl is seconding recommendation 1. Thank you. Recommendation 1, please. The voting vote will come up very shortly, or it's is.
No, it's not there.
Is that up there now? Is that?
No. Last one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. It's posted at 12:28. I understand this can be confusion, but please scroll down to the bottom of your chat box. It's the one that posted at 12:28. Please click and vote electronically if possible. Councillor Pill, please take down your mic.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Members, just a few more moments on the electronic vote. We're not consistent to what we've been with previously, so I'm just giving it a couple of moments before closing the electronic vote. Acknowledge you, Councillor Highway. I'll come to you shortly. Okay, I think that's adequate opportunity on the electronic vote. I'm just going down my list. Councillor Michael Jones.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Gareth Morgan.
Against. You're for.
Councillor Cath, have you been able to vote on this occasion?
No, I haven't. It won't load for some reason today. I don't know why. So
Go on, Councillor.
I'm for, please.
Thank you, Councillor Cath. Councillor Highland. Microphone, Councillor Highland.
I just wanted to check that
Sorry, Councillor Highland, you've been muted again.
There we are. I just wanted to check that Councillor Phil had placed his vote because he was taking it, or it appeared to be taking a telephone conversation.
Councillor Phil Pritchard or Councillor...
I believe I voted, Chairman. I would appreciate it if you checked it, but I do believe I did
Thank
vote.
you. We'll check that. We're coming to you, Councillor Emma.
Can you check, please, if my vote's been counted?
Thank you. We shall do so. We'll remember Councillor Karen once again.
I haven't been able to vote, Chair, against.
Councillor Karen, if you voted electronically, there's no need to declare verbally.
No, I couldn't. I wasn't allowed.
As far as I'm concerned now, we're waiting for clarification on Councillor Emmer, and then I can close the vote.
Chair, can I just check? It didn't load up. So you've taken my vote now against?
Councillor Karen, like other councillors, if you've received a communication that you voted, I think
No,
you need to.
I didn't, Chair. I couldn't load up like Councillor Cath. I was not able to. It wasn't loading up. It's
Councillor
loading up.
Councillor Karen, we're taking your vote against.
Sorry,
Councillor Ange.
Councillor Gwynfor, I haven't been able to vote. And
Okay,
that's
Councillor
against.
Ange. Thank you,
very
Councillor
much.
Ange. Thank you very much. Members, we're now waiting for. Councillor Ange was against.
Chair, I
Chairman,
can confirm
you
Councillor Phil
might
Pritchard has voted, Chair.
Thank you. We're just
Thank you.
waiting. We're
Thank you
just
very
waiting for. We're just waiting for clarification on Councillor Emmer.
And Councillor Emma Jones has also voted, Chair.
Thank you very much. Members, sorry, I muted myself. Members, I think we're in a situation now where we can.
Ted.
Are officers able to advise if we've lost our chair at the moment, please?
No, we haven't lost the chair.
Thank you. Sorry, he went off my screen and went quiet. Thank you. Sorry, Gwynfor, I thought you'd been cut off then.
It's Councillor Ange. Could we confirm that we've now adjourned the meeting? Because my screen tells me we have.
No, we haven't adjourned the meeting, Councillor Ange. We're continuing.
No, it's all right. It's just on my screen. It says that it's
No,
been
it says
adjourned.
continuation of adjourned meeting. That means
Oh, right,
continuation of
sorry.
the meeting from last Thursday. Councillor
Sorry.
Ange.
Sorry.
Members have the result. So recommendation 1, for 35, against 30, no abstentions. Total number of votes 65.
Thank you, members. Recommendation 1 has been carried. On the advice that we previously given, we now move on to recommendation 3. Page 27 of your pack, if anybody is requiring clarification. Councillor Allard.
Thank you.
Members, I'm very aware that members have the ability to mute people. It appears that this is going on. Will you please stop doing this, please? Alid was clearly up to speak then and he has been muted. So please, Alid, if you'd unmute yourself, can you please stop this procedure, please?
Sorry, Chair. My hands were nowhere near my laptop. Sorry, recommendation 3. Fees and charges register in appendices D and E. Thank you, Chair.
Looking for a seconder for recommendation 3, please. Thank you, Councillor Rosemary. Members, we're now going to the vote. We're waiting for Win to post in our chat box. As soon as it's posted, I'll tell you the time it's posted so that you're clear where to click, please. There we are. I believe that's posted at 12:36. So if members can attempt to vote electronically. There are members. I've been able to vote, and we'll just have a short silence while we give everyone an opportunity to vote electronically, and then we'll come to those for a verbal vote afterwards. Last opportunity to vote electronically, members. Members, I'm closing the electronic vote. I'm coming to members for verbal votes. I'll go down my list first with those people who have struggled thus far, and then I'll ask members who've had trouble. Councillor Michael Jones, sorry to come to you first every time, Councillor Michael, but you're top of my list.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Gareth Morgan. Councillor Gareth.
Beg your pardon, I had muted myself and not noticed. Against.
Thank you, Councillor Gareth. Councillor Kath.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Karen.
Against, Chair, but I might have already voted. Is it clear?
Thank you. Thank you. Members, are there any other members that are unable to vote? Okay, members, I'm closing the vote on recommendation 3 on page 27.
Chair, I can confirm Councillor Karen has voted electronically.
Thank you, members. Have the result of this, which is 36 for, 26 against, 1 abstention. Total number of votes cast 63.
Apologies, Clive. I didn't pick up the vote then. Sorry, if you could just repeat that for my usage, please.
Thank you, Chair. 36 for, 26 against, 1 abstention, total number of votes 63.
Thank you, Clive. Recommendation 3 has been carried. We move on to recommendation 4, which we're taking individually as suggested. Councillor Allard.
Thank you. Yes, recommendation 4. It's around the capital strategy, and we've taken on board the additional issues with GCRE, really exciting project. So that appears in the capital strategy, and we really haven't had much discussion of it. But recommendation 4 of the capital strategy and capital programme for 2022 to 2023, as shown in Appendix F. Thank you, Chair.
There you go, members. Thank you, Councillor Rosemary, giving me a seconder there, so it enables us to go to the vote. Waiting for that to come up in the box now, and as soon as it does, I'll put the time by it so there's no confusion. Okay, there it is. It's posted at 12:41. 12:41. Members, if you try to vote. Members, I've been able to vote, so hopefully others do so. We'll give everybody an opportunity to vote electronically, and I will come to people verbally.
We believe that Councillor Roger Williams may be in the wrong meeting. He's gone to the 12 o'clock meeting. So if members can contact him and ask him to return to this meeting, that would be wonderful.
Okay, I'll call him.
Members,
Thank you so much.
members, I'm going to close the electronic vote. It's consistent with what has been voted before. I'm now moving on to members who haven't been able to vote previously. Councillor Michael.
For.
Councillor Gareth Morgan.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Cass.
For.
Thank you. Are any other members unable to vote? Councillor Kelvin, are you coming in?
Yes, Gwynfor, thank you. I vote against. My computer went dead again, so I've had to log back in.
Thank you, Councillor Kelvin. Okay, members.
Please.
Sorry.
Okay, we've got a couple of people. I think it was Councillor Phil and Councillor Mike. Councillor Phil first, please.
Yeah, I need to say, can you confirm my vote, please?
Okay, Councillor Mike.
I don't know, Chair. I may have clicked send or something before I actually voted.
Okay, we'll get clarification on that.
Oh,
now.
I'm losing the plot a little bit, I think.
I'll swap seats with you if you like, Councillor Mike.
No, you're doing a good job, Chair.
You're doing a grand job, Chairman. You stay there.
Councillor Phil, Councillor Mike, we'll seek clarification on those. So I'll leave the voting open for just for a short while while we get that clarification, and then I'll close the vote.
Chairman, Councillor Phil Pritchard doesn't seem to have voted.
Councillor Phil, I'm coming to you verbally, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. 4.
Thank you.
I'll just check on Councillor Michael Williams.
Thank you very much, Wyn.
Again, Chair, can't see a vote from Councillor Michael Williams.
I'm voting. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go on, Councillor Mike. An opportunity for you to vote.
I'm voting for then, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Mike. Members, at this point now, I'm closing the vote.
Thank you, members. Have the result 36 for, 27 against, 1 abstention. Total number of votes cast 64.
Thank you, Clive. Members, item 4 on recommendation, recommendation 4 on page 27 has been carried. Members, there was a suggestion now that we take 5 to 8 on block. That's the procedure I wish to take. Alid, you will have to give all recommendations. Members, there may be a short delay in the voting on this because we have to put this together. We don't have a voting app done for this, but hopefully with Alid's proposals, we give us a bit of extra time to win to do so. So recommendation 5 to 8. That's not giving you an opportunity to drag it out, portfolio.
Thank you, Chair. Recommendation 5, minimum revenue provision statement as set out in Appendix F. Recommendation 6, Treasury management strategy and annual investment strategy in Appendix F. Recommendation 7, authorised borrowing limit for 22-23 as required under section 3.1 of the Local Government Act 2003 at £539 million as set out in section 3.71 of this report. And finally, recommendation 8, prudential indicators for 2022-23 as set out in section 3.67 to 3.71 of the report and Appendix F. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Rosemary, thank you very much. Second these recommendations. Members, be very clear. We're voting on recommendations 5 to 8. The voting app is ready, so thank you very much, Wynne. Be coming up shortly. Members, be clear on what you're voting on. It's been posted at 12:49, so it's there for you to vote on now, please. Members, opportunity for you to vote electronically, and I'll come to those with voting problems at the duration of the electronic vote. Members, we have a consistency in the electronic vote, so I'm going to suggest closing the electronic vote. I'm coming to members verbally now. Councillor Michael.
For.
Councillor Gareth Morgan.
Abstain.
Councillor Kath.
For.
That's my list as it stands. Any other members unable to vote? Members, I'll close the vote.
Chair, I have a result 51 for, 9 against, 3 abstentions. Total number of votes 63.
Thank you, members. That's recommendations 5 to 8 have been carried. Thank you, members. That concludes item 3 on the agenda. Councillor Allard, you're indicating.
Apologies, Chair. Can I beg your indulgence?
Oh, somebody's voted him again.
Somebody's muted Councillor Allard. I have requested you don't do that. We will investigate who's doing that. If you can continue to do so.
Thank you, Chair.
I'm going to say Allard very briefly, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I would just wish to thank the finance staff and the rest of the management team who put this budget together. We are very lucky to have such an excellent Head of Finance and Section 151 Officer in Jane Thomas. We owe her a great debt. Thank you, Chair.
Members, we're in a situation now. The time is 12:53. I'm in your hands. I appreciate the situation we're in. We've got item 4 on this meeting to continue, and we've got a huge agenda afterwards. I'm looking for advice when you would like to take lunch. There is an opportunity now, or would you like to take item 4 quickly? Well, we can't say quickly, can we? Or do you want to take item 4 before we take lunch? Councillor Bev.
Sorry, Chair. This item is on the corporate improvement plan, and it's in joint names with Councillor Rosemary and I. I know it's been a long session, but I would suggest if it would be possible, if members would be happy, just to let us briefly present that, and hopefully then we can have lunch, because then it would conclude if the leader and yourself would be happy, because obviously this is the final item on the agenda. But up to you really. But we're very happy to take it if you do wish so.
I'm happy to do on the wishes of council. Councillor Rosemary, you brought your mic on. Is it to make a comment or to get ready for the next item?
I'm just getting ready for the item, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Pete.
I was just going to say pretty much what Beverly said. We are in separate meetings this afternoon. It would make sense to finish in this one and go to another one rather than come back to this meeting and then change.
I acknowledge that. Members, we'll proceed with item 14 then, please. This is in, we've got Councillor Rosemary, Councillor Bev, and I believe Emma Palmer's with us as well. Members, the documentation is before you on 713 to 786. I hope you've given it some perusal, and not wishing to belittle this. Councillor Bev, Councillor Rosemary, please, can you summarise as quick as you can?
Thank you, Chair. This is the final annual review of the Corporate Improvement Plan Vision 2025 for this term of council. It was drawn up in 2017, as you will know, and endorsed as the council's plan, and it included the strategic equality objectives. I'm very pleased to say that we have delivered, or are in the process of delivering, all that we set out to do, and of course it'll be up to the new council and the new cabinet to either change it
or continue the delivery. The full council agreed the priorities, and I think they were the right ones. That has been borne out. The economy, learning and skills, health and care, and resident and communities. And of course, our vision and our corporate improvement plan aligns with the Public Service Board and the RPB plan. We couldn't have seen COVID coming, obviously, so that has brought problems on a number of different levels, and we need to work within those recovery plans. But these are our improvement priorities and our vision for the way that we wanted to go. But we've also had a very wide transformation programme which sits alongside these priorities, and the different different scrutiny committees have had continuous opportunities to input into the different areas of work. We've worked together, scrutiny committees, on improvement and transformation priorities. The vision is delivered and all is being delivered, and although there's work to be done, we've brought in significant investment and we've improved services. There'll always be work to be done, but there have been major improvements, transformational changes delivered during the last 5 years. And I think I would like to say, as this is the last improvement plan and the last discussion we'll have on this particular vision, I'd just like to thank all councillors for their support, whether it's been in the decision making or in challenge. I think we've worked well together. I'd like to ask Councillor Bev for some comments and also put the recommendation. And Councillor Bev, of course, is the portfolio holder for corporate governance. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Leader. Chairman, is it okay if I proceed or?
Absolutely fine. I'm a bit of a plap there, Councillor Bev, because I did lose the meeting for a minute. Councillor Bev, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Leader. Yes, members, just to note, really, this is the third year that we have brought the Corporate Improvement Plan annual update to full council in parallel with the budget. This year we've updated the introduction and the foreword from the Leader and the CEO as per previous years but within the Corporate Improvement Plan itself, we've made minor amendments as we are conscious that with the local government elections being imminent, the elected administration from 2022 onwards may want to set new priorities for the organisation. We have not factored in scrutiny this year due to the fact that we've only made minor amendments and therefore saw little value as we've taken the plan through scrutiny since its inception, taking on board their contributions each year. Chairman, would you like me to put the recommendation now or shall I wait?
I would give the recommendation now if possible, please, Bev.
Yep. Thank you, Chairman. Bear with me a moment, members. I'll just get it up on my screen. So the recommendation, it's item number 8 in the paper. 8.1. It is recommended that the proposed amendments to Vision 2025, our Corporate Improvement Plan, as outlined in Appendix A, are approved for publication in the Corporate Improvement Plan Update 2022 with implementation from April 2022. 8.2. The recommendation above will ensure Vision 2025, our Corporate Improvement Plan, has a clear delivery plan and that all activity is focused on delivery of the intended outcomes and COVID-19 response and recovery. That the Council meets its statutory obligations as outlined in the Wellbeing of Future Generations Wales Act 2015, Local Government and Elections Wales Act 2021, and the 2010 Equality Act, and more specifically the Equality Act 2010 Statutory Duties Wales Regulations 2011. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much, both. Emma, do you wish to make any comment at this stage, or are you happy just to be there to pick up on any questions? Thank you, Emma. Councillor Hugh, you appear to be wishing to speak. Or da, Hugh?
Yeah, well, it's afternoon now.
Pronoun da, sorry.
Yeah. Chair, thank you. The plan, we've looked at it over the last 2-3 years, but can I make an observation here, please? In September 2020, Powys declared a climate change emergency. I feel the document is a bit light in mentioning that. arguably the most important issue facing us in the next God knows how many years. We've got a target to reduce the carbon emissions to net zero by 2030. It's not mentioned in there, so I need to make that observation. There's no evidence. It should be embedded in all the objectives, in my view. There isn't a mention of it. So I do think that it is an omission. Having said that, it is a good document. I'm not saying that, but I'm trying to be positive here, but there is no mention of the climate change. There is one paragraph, I will say that, but it should be embedded in all the objectives that we carry out. I do note that there's been a climate change strategy is being consulted upon this week. I could say, if I was being awkward, where's it been till now? But I won't. But the document is light on climate change. That is my observation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Just before we proceed any further, I should have asked for a seconder to the recommendation. So could I please do so for that? Thank you, Councillor Rosemary. Yeah, I'm happy for somebody to jump in now and answer Councillor Hughes' comment, please. Emma. Thank you.
Prynhawn da. Page 579 refers to the climate change. It states within there, within the residents community, we will aim to become a zero carbon council by 2030. However, I do recognise what Councillor Williams is saying, and it's the anticipation that working with the new administration, I would expect the climate change, sort of the planet, environment to be front and centre of any new corporate improvement plan. So there's only been a light touch to this one on the basis that we're coming to the end of this administration. The work that's underway on the climate strategy and any supported plans you would then form part of the new corporate improvement plan with the new administration.
Thank you very much, Emma. Members, any other comment, questions?
I suggest you put it to the vote, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Cath. Members, thank you for your persistence here in this item. Members, we have a recommendation before us. Members, do you wish to go electronically to take this recommendation, or are you happy to take it in silence?
Well, if there are none against, I think we should take it as read that it's approved, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Mike. Members, we have a recommendation on page 716, 8.1 and 8.2. Councillor Bev clearly gave them you. I'm going to say, on your silence, are we in acceptance of these recommendations? Members, Councillor Rosemary, Councillor Bev, I'm accepting your recommendations, and Councillor Karen.
Oh, I was only going to say, Chair, sorry. Just for consistency, shouldn't we just go to the vote?
Members, Karen, I'm sorry, Councillor Karen, you're a little bit slow off the mark. I judged it on the silence. Nobody spoke up at that time, and I'm through that procedure now, so I'm going to continue. Members, thank you for that. The recommendations have been carried. Councillor Bev, Councillor Rosemary. Members, this brings to the conclusion of, it's a funny thing to say, conclusion of last week's meeting. We've come to a conclusion. We have another meeting now, which was scheduled for 12. We're looking at somewhere in the region of 1:05. Would it be acceptable to return at 1:30, because we've got a huge agenda ahead of us, and also I will be concluding that meeting at 6 p.m. No matter where we are on that agenda, in view of the legislation which we have before us. So can I suggest that we return at 1:30, please? It's a different meeting, so please leave this meeting and return to the invite which you have for another meeting. Members, we'll see you all at 1:30. Thank you for your persistence in this meeting. I'm very grateful for the conclusions which we've managed to receive. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members.
Thank you.